odd. The reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay.
This level.
Shape up or ship out.
Levels don't change.
No.
Since about shipping up.
You know my business partner here.
Shipping out.
Are we talking about the sheep in the bathtub? Or
the sheep man.
One of Talamu used to tell us a story of they were in school and they'd been told to write composition about a ship. His classmate raises a hand. Teacher, are you talking about the sheep or a sheep goat?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
good morning this Wednesday. Let's look at what Nairobi streets are looking like now, starting to build up in different parts of the city. And we're seeing that traffic is starting on the Thika Superhighway, getting through to Survey, but it's all right for now. Coming out of Westlands, that's going to start building up. Let's take a look also. Coming off Jogo Road, there's traffic that's bumper to bumper in some parts going out towards the City Stadium roundabout and then out towards Landis Road. For now, that's what it looks like. It's not too bad. We're likely to see a slow start to Wednesday, but it will definitely pick up as the sun comes up. Let's have a look in about half an hour. What's going on where you are? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Tell us about what the situation is and we'll spread the word. Keep things moving this Wednesday.
SpiceFM, Malindi. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Good morning. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room. Happy Wednesday. It's the 5th. What?
Can you imagine?
Hey,
It's Christmas.
what's happening to these days?
It's an end of 2-4.
5th. How? It's the 5th day of October, 2022. And it's that day when we have another conversation throughout. Are you well? Because I am. Ndu? Are you? Are you?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Are you?
Am I?
Eh.
I'm fine, oh.
Ah, very good. Very good. Very good. How about you, Mr. Muga?
Niko mzima kabisa.
Kabisa kabisa.
Yes.
Eh?
Maridadi.
Kama ngarange ya mvule.
That one.
That one.
Ngule.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It didn't rain yesterday. Did it rain?
No, did it rain yesterday? No, it was day before
It
yesterday.
was the day before yesterday.
There was a bit of a drizzle, though,
It
yesterday.
threatened to rain.
There was some moisture that fell from the heavens.
And then it stopped threatening. And we were like, okay, sawa, sawa. Yeah, sawa. So,
It actually rained in my neighborhood yesterday.
rain.
Yes, real rain.
Not drizzle.
No. The
Rain,
real
rain.
rain.
Hiya. Oh my goodness. Oh my word.
You and your word. Are you guys fine? Two of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it rain in Ogeto's ward?
The day when it rained a great deal.
It's the day Ogeto came.
It's the day Ogeto came. He brought the rain.
It rained. Now, this other one that Ndu is speaking of, I think it's a selective variety.
Of what? Of rain?
Yes.
Rain.
Abi, how?
Which either rains at All Saints and doesn't
And doesn't rain.
Doesn't rain in that place.
Another
Don't
geographical
even say that
location.
place with your mouth. Don't say it.
You can't say
No.
that other building
They might visit
on
you.
Nyeri Road.
Oh, one with the high windows.
Selective rain.
Yeah.
Please.
And they've made sure that road is one way.
You can't. Where are you going? As you,
It's one way. If you come from Serena and try and go that way, unless you're going into that hall,
it's where you will end up. As in, it is designed for you to end up there. Are you seeing? Even the county fathers, city fathers knew what they were doing. It was all taken into consideration because you get on that road,
and then
you
know
end
that
up in
thing.
one place.
Do you know how many churches surround that hall?
Imagine, and it's just
All
there.
Saints Cathedral, one side here.
Church corners on the other side, St.
There's
Paul's, St. Andrews.
AIC on
AIC
this
is
side.
this side.
There's SDA,
SDA here.
abroad.
Then now just
There's
down
the
the
Church
road
of
is-
Scientists down.
There's the Lutheran church
There's the
there.
Lutheran.
There's St. Paul's.
There's
There's
Catholic.
St. Andrews.
There's
And up the road,
PCA.
there's Valley Road.
imagine
Just up the road.
how
they're
many
just there
churches just
thriving.
surround that
And it's just
that
there.
place.
And just in case you are unwell,
Pulsing like a night fly.
there's a health facility called Lady Northie.
Just there.
Just there, just in case.
When I first came to Kenya, we used to call that place Church Corner.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and you see, just there, like a firefly, just pulsing.
And if you have a little money to spend, there's Serena just down the road.
Hey, all right.
No, but it rained for real in many of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember I had to go and take my children with the rain. That thing
Okay.
is called what for covering yourself from rain?
Umbrella.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say, raincoats.
Rain.
Yeah.
No, but I meant the one for opening like this. English sometimes disappears. Sorry.
Okay.
Narudi kwao.
Yes.
Okay. So let me tell you what we'll be discussing today.
Oh, sorry.
Remember that being the 5th, there are only 5 days to go to the second draw for somebody to win 1 acre of
Tuna
land.
bamba na shamba.
Bamba Shamba with AMG Realtors. All you need to do is text the word Shamba to what? 20?
40299.
Yeah. 40299. Text the word Shamba to 40299. What AMG Realtors are going to do, they'll tell you where the Shambas are, and you buy for as little as 150,000 shillings to as much as 4.7 million shillings, and every 50,000 shillings is an entry to the draw. Make sure you do it, because if you just spend 150 Gs and then you get an acre of land, and this acre of land is where? It's in Nanyuki.
Can be a rancher.
My friend.
You also can be a rancher.
My friend. Anyway, to tell us more about this, Martin Gethenji, who is a sales manager at AMG Realtors Limited, will be here with us at 7 a.m. to talk about the Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion. At 8 o'clock, let's talk about the impact of lifting the ban on GMOs. You okay? We will be joined by a gentleman called Emmanuel Atamba, who is a coordinator at Route to Food. Route to Food is a campaign that ensures that we all access our right to food. That's 8 a.m. 9 a.m., we talk about the Fuliza changes review, how it happened and why it matters. Remember that meeting? Safaricom and the bankers, and they said, Fuliza, we are doing something about it. And they lowered the charges. Eric Morioki Njage
I thought you were introducing yourself. Okay, sorry.
is a group director for digital business at NCBA, and he will be here at 9 a.m. to tell us about Fuliza and the drop in charges and other products that they have. Okay? It's a full day. Packed
To the
show.
rafters.
Kabisa. And how about our Ministry of Health?
Let me tell you what's going on with COVID-19 in the country yesterday over the last 24 hours. If only this thing can decide to cooperate with me.
It will.
See, life will be good.
Breathe life into it.
Voila.
Relax.
6 new cases
Take
from a sample
things
size
easy.
of 1,545 gives Kenya now a positivity rate of 0.4%. There have been 7 recoveries and yet another day of 0 recorded deaths. This is good. Of the 6 cases, 5 were in Nairobi, 1 in Mombasa, and we're still looking at low numbers of COVID. We've been sub 10 in terms of numbers for the last 6 weeks. 7 weeks, 8 weeks. Yes, actually, sub 10 since about July.
No
Is-
deaths.
No deaths. No deaths. And yeah, not seeing whether these cases that we're getting are symptomatic or otherwise. So but for this is not bad in terms of numbers at all. And we're still looking at the fact that, vaccines are still there. They're still available in the country. Have you both gotten a booster shot, by the way?
Not yet.
Nope.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right, so that's what we're looking at.
You must have.
Myself? No, I haven't.
Okay.
Why? Because I keep asking and you think I've done it, right?
Just asking, you know.
Okay. So as you think about that, I think this machine of mine is doing a thing on me this morning.
It's also sighing.
The COVID symptom is now more dominant than fever or loss of smell and taste, and we're asking which one that is. But it's okay. See, I'll tell you later.
So they keep changing, alternating.
So it keeps
One is
changing.
dominant for a quarter, and then another one comes in.
Right, but right now it's a sore throat. It's a sore throat and a really sore throat. It's not your normal laryngitis. It's a really, really sore throat that you cannot speak. It's rough in there. If you were examined, it would be really, really red. And that's what they're saying is now the dominant symptom. It's interesting because as we go along, the symptoms of COVID are changing. Remember when we started, it was fever, headache,
And a sore throat, and a dry cough.
and a dry cough. Then it moved on to loss of taste and smell, and then anosmia, right? And then we went on to other things like difficulty breathing, etc. Now it's a sore throat, and it could change into something else. So that's what it looks like for now with COVID.
17 after 6, live streaming the show on social media, SpiceFM, KE, YouTube, and Facebook. We always like to know where you're tuned in from so we can say a proper good morning to you. So let us know where you are, where you're tuned into from. Post a comment on SpiceFM KE on Facebook and also tag us on Twitter and YouTube as well. We will be sampling some of those comments shortly. Let's first take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
He's promiscuous or he's polygamous. We need to get over ourselves.
So I should always know the man that marries me, I know there'll be other women.
Yes.
The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of the relationships you will have with other people.
Things that we never talk about. 3 things. Stop, breathe, and relax.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune in to Adults in the Room.
Every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
In Nairobi today, we're looking at cloudy conditions. We'll go to highs of 26 and lows of 19 today. Taking a look into Nyeri, highs of 21 and lows of 16. We'll see highs of 26 in Nakuru, where currently cloudy conditions at 17. It'll go to highs of 26 in Eldoret, where it's cloudy this morning, currently at 18 degrees. Taking a look out into Mombasa, chances of rain later on, highs of 29 and lows of 22 today. And Malindi will also see highs of 29. It's partly cloudy this morning. Kisumu, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega. Out in Kampala, we'll go to highs of 28, while in Dar es Salaam, we'll see highs of 29 today. Joburg, a warm day. We'll go to highs of 32, and we'll also see highs of 30 in Lagos. Kinshasa, we'll see highs of 29, currently cloudy conditions at 22. Looking out into Beijing, it will be a warm afternoon, but it'll just go to highs of 22. And we'll see highs of 19 in Paris, which is cloudy at the moment. Highs of 20 in London, and still Tuesday night in New York. Chance of rain still high coming into Wednesday. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 11.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
Yeah! You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Morning.
All right, 21 after 6. So the computer has decided to do like that.
Computer me Fuliza.
It has done like that. Okay, as we wait for it to come on, we will acknowledge everybody's presence. You have some more time. Let us know where you tuned in from this morning. SpiceFM KE on Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube is our page. What is that I'm hearing? Playing in the background.
See
It's a
how me-
YouTube.
Yeah,
It's a
I'm
YouTube.
trying to tell you what's going
It is
on.
Neo Souling on YouTube.
Achani send me hello from
Yes, hello, Basi.
Kip Kirui says, good morning. I like how Charles says, you know, then shrugs. You know. Okay, quite a number of people online this morning. Doha, and that's where Ole Mwai is, locked in from Kinaine Afi River. Good morning. It's an intelligent and informative and interactive show like no other. Allah, thank you. 3 eyes at once. Robert Mbogo is tuned in, plugged in from Mombasa. Jane Duta says she's tuning from the coast. People used to call me, they used to say that I was
Ndu for Nduta.
misbehaving with my name. That actually your name is Duta. Actually, it's not.
It is actually Nduko.
Hamjamboni Watunguyas, Palms Resort Nyali Mombasa tuned in. That's where James Kimanzi is. Flavor Kinangop says Baridi Tupu, locked in from Mavoko Athi River. That's where Felix Isanya is this morning. Good morning, good people. Linda Choge says hi. Kipsat Collins says hello. Good to see you. Good to see you as well. We can see a number of you online. Robert Kipkemboy says good morning. Karibuni sana.
Alrighty, on Twitter, Faristo Muganda from Wabubere is tuned in. Dr. Henry Ochoki is tuned in. Chris Michael says good morning, gentlemen. City, you're looking sharp today. Ulishinda tender.
Nishinda plot.
Aha. My favorite woman, Ndu. I have to simp today. Kwani Konini. Go in and be happy.
What?
Just
I should
know
go.
that you're his favorite woman.
Who is that person?
George Michaels. Chris Michael. Atutidan, good morning, Eric City and Ndu. Already checked in and ready for today's conversation. And also for Atutidan, you are the WCW.
Hello?
Crushing everybody. Makmato says good morning, tuned in from Kakamega Majengo. Peter Njoroge, good morning, gang. Peter listening in from Kiambu. I'm back now and had duties to take care of. City, good to see you again. The rest, good to have you on the show.
Sorry.
Edwin Washira.
Sorry, but.
Hey. Edwin Washira has a message for you, City. Can City Muga talk to Museveni to stop his son, Kainerugaba, to stop these thoughts of a 3-week invasion? Ndu okosalimika.
Nani?
Mike Washira.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Umepewa assignment,
You've been
bana.
sent delegation to Museveni. This is as we wait for Eric's appointment to government as a PS.
Eric, you do know that delegation can't be one person.
No, so you'll choose now your other members.
It's up to you.
You choose.
Who do you want to go with?
Two?
That place where you're going.
To meet Yoweri Museveni,
I'm not going anywhere.
to tell him, Sebo, this young man of yours,
Oh, you see a young man.
yeah?
You know something? The president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, His Excellency, watches this program. So he has heard. Okay? He watches. Not a one-off.
Are you trying to avoid traveling?
He watches it regularly. I'm actually responding as patently as I can to what Brother Washira asked for. He watches. So believe me, he has heard. And when the president watches, it doesn't mean that he's sitting there in front of the TV watching. There are people who watch on his behalf and also tell him, Mheshimiwa mtukufu rais, today,
Umeambiwa.
wale watu wa situation wamesema, ongea na nani. Yes, tafadhali. But even these things that are being reported on social media, did he actually say those things?
Who? He tweeted those things.
He tweeted?
Yeah.
And we know it is him who tweeted?
It's him who tweets.
No, I'm just
It's not
asking.
a parody account.
We'll talk about it soon. First, tell us about the day's proverb.
Okay. Right.
Still in Libya.
My friend, we're going to be in Libya until the end of this week, yeah?
Does Libya have a president?
Yes.
Like proper president? Not a guy who claims to be president from one side and another guy who claims to be president from another side.
You know, they have a president.
Full
But
stop.
I will answer that question in due course.
Okay.
Okay? What is collected by an ant in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
Surely that camel. What is collected by an ant in a year?
Yes.
It's carried away once
By a camel's
by a
foot.
camel's foot.
My camel's foot.
Yes.
At least it's a foot, not a camel toe.
Indeed.
Let's look at the newspaper headlines. If you actually go to the papers and the Standard newspaper specifically, you will find a QR code somewhere on the pages. Scan that QR code and stand a chance of winning some goodies from the Standard. This could be in the form of branded merchandise or some vouchers, okay? The Standard newspaper for only 60 shillings, available countrywide, just as Airtel 4G is now available, what? Countrywide. And with Airtel 4G, if you scan that QR code, then you get to access the Standard newspaper online with Airtel 4G, available
Everywhere.
countrywide. What's on the front pages?
Front page of the Standard, deadlock in Ruto-Raila power battle. Which is the majority party or coalition? It now became a thing of back and forth. Is it a party? Is it a coalition? Who can run? Who cannot run? Who can be? Who cannot be? Okay. That is the elephant in the room that even Speaker Wetangula needed time to deliberate on as Kenya Kwanza and Azimio leaders made their case in the National Assembly. Kimani Ichung'wah, the registrar of political parties, allowed for Azimio to field individual candidates. There was only one candidate that ran as an Azimio candidate, complete with the emblem, and that was Raila Odinga and his running mate, Martha. Azimio party is not a coalition. That is what Kimani Ichung'wah said yesterday. According to Appeal One Day, upon the confirmation by the Register of Political Parties and the law, the Speaker is expected to convey that Azimio is the majority party. Any other thing is nothing but, wait for it, hot air. As far as we are concerned, Azimio is both a coalition and a coalition party. Okay? Museveni moves to tame his wild son. That is on the front page of The Nation today. Rebel rouser or rogue general. It's all fun and games, they say, until someone loses an eye. And so what started off on Monday as playful Twitter banter by Ugandan military boss and President Museveni's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, had by last evening thrust Nairobi and Kampala into an awkward diplomatic row as Kenya's High Commissioner in Kampala and Uganda's Foreign Affairs Ministry scurried to extinguish the fires of the threats by Muhoozi to run over Nairobi in 2 weeks. That's what's on the front page of The Nation today.
How
as
about
well
the Star?
As Wetangula's wars.
My peoples.
Have done the thing.
They did the thing. They
It is-
peopled.
Actually, it's when I...
We realize now you're the problem. It's not those people.
Yes, it's the hour that
It's
I
about me,
leave.
it's not you.
Yes. If I leave my house later than I normally do, I will find them. I thought I had an alternative. The alternative also, it's strange. There are days I will find one. Like yesterday, I was able to get the Star. I wasn't able to get the Business Daily. And I was also able to get the what? The East African. Today, nada. So it's a question of delivery. The consistency of the time in which papers are delivered, even to spots where you can get them in the morning, it isn't consistent. No.
It's changing.
It's changing. And my person, I think I've realized there's a connection. If there's a delay on one side, there'll be a delay on the other side because he gets the papers from the same... Well, I guess
Same
purveyors
source
of
as always.
the said product are the same. So, sorry. Long story short, no star.
No star today.
Well, I'm sure it'll be there at some point. I'm the one who has no star. Yes.
Okay, so let's take a break. Then we'll look at the two papers that we have shortly, the big stories. It is 6:30 on the 5th day of October. Are you running? Are you up and about, feeling like an athlete? Because you should be preparing for the Standard Chartered Nairobi Marathon. When does it take place?
So the virtual race takes place from the 23rd until the 30th. You can log in your times after having done, etc., etc. The live race takes place, the live marathons rather, take place on the 30th of October, which is Sunday, along the Southern Bypass. It'd be a great day for you to compete in the 42, the 21, the 10K, or the family fun race.
Okay, make sure you're ready for that. NairobiMarathon.com. Log in and register.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
So baridi ni degree ngapi hapo?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest
Okay, so definitely looking
conversation.
at traffic building up along Jogo Road, and that's slow as you get towards Landis. We'd already seen slim early pickings of that this morning. Then getting onto Haile Selassie, it's all right for now, but it might turn into a nightmare later. We'll keep an eye on that. Coming off of Mombasa Road, looks all right as you're getting towards that Imara Daima drift. You're going to get down towards General Motors and you'll be fine out to then towards Huru Highway, past the Nyayo Stadium. There's a movement of traffic coming off Langata Road, as well as some coming out of Westlands. In about an hour or so, it's going to be the seventh circle of hell because it's going to be really busy as well. Some parts of the streets are slippery, looking at that oncoming rain this morning. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let us know what's going on where you are. It's likely to be a busy Wednesday, smack dab in the middle of the week. Of course, people going about their business and doing the thing. Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right. Tell us about that General Muhoozi.
Let me tell you.
Tell us, please.
Now, it's covered on page 2 and 3. On Monday, we started hearing things. Why? What's going on? Twitter was ablaze. It's all about fun and games, they say in the beginning, until you lose an eye. And then, things get a little bit iffy. For the better part of yesterday morning, diplomats from Kenya and Uganda were in a closed-door meeting following Twitter posts by Mr. Kainerugaba that made juvenile military invasion threats against Nairobi. But even as Kenya's High Commissioner in Kampala, George Owino, and Ugandan Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary Vincent Bagire worked hard to figure out how to extinguish the fire from Mr. Kainerugaba from his tweets.
Can they stop calling him Mr.?
Can they stop?
Yes, can they stop calling him Minister?
He's General.
Mr.
He's not Mr. He's General.
He's General.
Yes. From General Kainerugaba's tweets, the military boss was still twiddling his thumbs and firing more controversial social media posts. Not even the flurry of diplomatic talks and wave of condemnation from Kenya and Uganda painted General Kainerugaba painted to him the grave nature of his tweets as he maintains that he could if called, lead a military takeover of Nairobi in just 7 days. I'm glad that I have scared you Kenyans a bit, he tweeted. 2 weeks is long. Nairobi in 1 week for sure, aided by my brother from Carnival. I would never beat up Kenyan army because my father told me never to attempt it. So our people in Kenya should relax. He continued, after capturing Nairobi, I shall take my wife on a tour of our district. On Monday, the Ugandan military boss had claimed that he only needed 2 weeks to capture Nairobi, then went ahead to ask his followers, perhaps in jest, to pick between the rich Nairobi suburbs of Westlands and Riverside for a headquartered location. After Kenya and Uganda diplomats wrapped up their talks, General Kainerugaba tweeted again, saying he would like East Africa to unite as one country and that he hoped he would be appointed the military commander of that new nation. He further proposed that his father, President Yoweri Museveni, leads the East African nation, that one now, deputized by Kenya's head of state, William Ruto. Kampala has distanced itself from his tweets, and its Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday insisted that it does not conduct foreign policy or official business on social media. Interestingly, Kenya found itself in a similar position after the inauguration of William Ruto as president, with his official Twitter account posting that Kenya would withdraw support of the Sarwari Arab Democratic Republic. Hours later, the account deleted the tweet, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs a day later issued a statement in which it said that Kenya does not conduct its foreign policy through social media.
So, the man tweets all these things, and then yesterday in the morning, he wakes up and says, you know what? It seems like that conversation I was having with my friends from Kenya, my brothers from Kenya, the information has gotten to my father, and my father has decided to have something. He said, he tweeted in the morning, I had a good discussion with my great father this morning. Apparently, my tweet scared Kenyans too much. He will announce changes. There's a special prayer that I shall make for our army. And then, of course, later, the changes were announced, and the good father had promoted him to a full general. And, of course, removed him from the command of the defense, the ground army, the army. So he's now a general there, at advisory role with the president, but no longer the commander of the land forces.
Ako DOD.
Amepelekwa DOD. Yeah. This thing of that you are the commander of the land forces, that you are the one who's now leading operations. Remember, the army has been leading an operation in the DRC against some rebels who were accused of participating in the bombing in Kampala and other atrocities. Now he's no longer the man. Wacha tuone. He's greatly touted to be the next leader of that great neighboring country. So now what happens next? City?
A while back, we were talking about the possibilities of Italy having a female prime minister.
Yes.
They have.
It is a reality.
They have. The lady's name is Giorgia Meloni. Far right.
Complete.
Far, not just right, not centrist.
Not center right.
Far right.
Farthest you can go.
Yes.
What does right mean in their case?
Conservative.
Extremely. So I was going to add the adjective, but all right.
So in their case, what does it mean?
Well,
they're conserving.
Perhaps I should give you the example
of
a country that neighbors them called France. If you look at the country of France, look at those who are associated with the far right. Somebody whose name is written L-E Pen.
Yes.
Okay? But pronounce?
Le Pen.
See? I wasn't going to wade those waters before I understood how. La who?
Pen.
Okay. That's far right. That's really far right.
Yes.
Meaning, their argument is that they are nationalists and they want to look after the interest of their citizens. Now, unfortunately, when that is uttered, what is represented in the meaning is citizens meaning white citizens of their country. And alongside that particular interpretation is they are not for immigrations, they are not for people who are not inclined in color towards them. That's far right. Now, the last...
Mussolini as well.
You, my friend, have understood where I was going with this one here.
Uh-huh.
Because since World War II, Italy has never had a far-right party. And it appears that that's the direction. Now, let me ask this question.
Ask.
What does it tell you? Because look at Europe. We know where France is with the issues of far-right.
Yep.
There's Italy.
Yep.
The significant thing is that it's on the rise.
Yep.
Not decline, on the rise.
Yep.
So let me just say for now that it's something to watch.
The entire world is going right. If you look at very many parts of the world, people are just looking and being nationalists to the core.
Absolutely.
That's what they say.
I mean, if you look at
That's
the
what
America first,
if you look
even
at the
in South America and all.
Yeah. The mid-2000s, when we started to hear the buzzwords of the world being now a global village and everybody was opening up their borders and there was a whole thing of, geopolitics then took this inclusive, kind of like an inclusive stance. I think we're seeing that we're transitioning back to where it was, that people that are now concerned, a lot of countries, and maybe starting with the example of the West, saying, look, we want to now have a refocused energy towards our own borders, protecting of our own sovereignty, making sure that our issues within are sorted out first before we even start to talk about anyone else. Look, those with dwindling populations may have a different foreign policy than when it comes to who they're going to invite, such as your Canadas and parts of the Scandinavian region. But largely, we have seen just this. France, Italy now, the United States, MAGA with Donald Trump. And that's where we were. 20 years later, after the global village scenario seems to be winding down, and this has taken up, you don't know what's going to happen in another 20 years, but that's it. That the nationalists are speaking, and very loudly so, and are getting to the point where they're asking to be elected into executive office.
And people are doing that.
Yep, absolutely.
But also of interest, this Europe is a strange place. When this lady pronounced her support for Ukraine, guess where they get their gas from?
Russia.
Yeah, and guess what Putin did? Turned off the taps.
That thing down.
Fingered the tap.
Yeah, you ask Ukraine to give you gas. Yeah, joking with us. I don't know why it is, but the far right, unfortunately, with reference to Italy, is related to fascism. Very directly, because people who purvey news are comparing her leadership with that of Mussolini. She hasn't even begun running the country. But because of the far right position, the immediate comparison is with Mussolini. And immediately, the purveyors of news like ourselves already is like the US are watching very tentatively and wondering which direction is he going to take. Now, let me ask. The UK also have a lady who is a prime minister. Again, conservative. So what are we to read from this? As you say correctly, the world is moving right.
The women are conservative. From Jean-Marie Le Pen to Miss Melania to Miss Truss.
Well, if you really want to take that route, why don't you go to Scandinavia?
The entire Scandinavia.
Yes.
So where the executive and the monarchy
yes
are women.
Yes. So we are not to be left far behind. 2/3 gender rule. We are marching forward straight in that particular direction ourselves.
Indeed.
But there are people who preceded us in that, because the 50 women in Parliament.
In Parliament.
Yes.
50%.
No, 50%. Not 50 women, 50%. Rwanda got there before us.
Oh, they did.
Rwanda got there before us. Anyway.
Page 4, 6 and 7 of The Nation today has some very, very, very gory details of murders committed by unknown people. Remember the story of some young men who disappeared one time and then were all found within days of apart?
Yes.
They had been killed. So now the nation has pieced together a series of incidents involving 10 people who've fallen victim to the brutal operations of mysterious killers. Only 2 of the 10 emerged alive. They include a man called Otieno and his brother Alfred Odhiambo. The latter is one of the two survivors. Then there are the Kasarani Four. Those are the ones we were talking about. Franco Begi, Fred Obare, Moses Nyachai, and Elijah Omeka, none of whom survived, as well as suspected drug dealer Joseph Ngendo Njao. Evelyn Nduko survives. The others are David Ochieng Odera, dead. His unidentified friend, also killed. So, here is the story. For years now, Nairobi has been rocked by an upsurge of unsolved murders that have left families in pain after the bodies of their loved ones were found dumped in horrific circumstances. A few days or weeks later, their bodies are found dumped in thickets or rivers. But on Friday, September 23rd, just the other day, for the first time, Kenyans got a glimpse of what these abductees go through in the form of videos, CCTV footage, and images detailing how gunmen abducted a man at 3 a.m., then on the same day took a woman at 11 a.m., whom they later dumped in another part of Nairobi. Then on the same day and in broad daylight, the gunmen tracked down and killed Kevin Otieno, who was 23 years old, a few meters from his house in Utawala Embakasi East constituency by pumping 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 20, 21, 30, 36 bullets into his body. The nation has pieced together a series of incidents involving 10 people who've fallen victim to the brutal killers. So, we start with this one. On the night of the last Thursday of September, 2 men were shot dead along Mirema Drive in Kasarani Sub-County. Police later identified one of them as David Ochieng Odera, who's 34 years old, and the second has not yet been identified. Investigations revealed that this is what happened. A Toyota Belter pulled up near Jifiche Bar around 10:30 p.m. 2 men aboard this vehicle. One of the men gets out and walks to a nearby butchery, leaving his colleague making a phone call in the car. A few minutes later, a Toyota Probox drives into the vicinity from the Lumumba Drive direction. On board is a driver, a woman, and 2 men. Probox has 4 people. Belter has 2 people. One has gone to a butchery, the other one is on the phone. Okay? Now, the 2 men stepped out and confronted the man who was making a call in the Belter, demanding a mzigo, insisting that he could not eat it alone. A bitter argument ensues, which draws the attention of revelers milling around the nearby clubs. Well, let him mzigo, where's kula peke yake? This is when Odera, who had stepped out to go to the butchery, rushes back from the butchery and retrieves a gun, intent on protecting his friend from his 2 attackers. However, those 2 friends were quicker on the draw and they shot Odera dead. Odera's friend was then handcuffed and shot even as he pleaded for mercy. The 2 men then left the scene before police officers arrived and took away the bodies. A police source this week told the nation that the occupants of the Probox were part of a group that killed Otieno and abducted his brother Alfred Odhiambo, who was picked from his house at 3 a.m. on Friday, September 23rd, by armed people clad in balaclavas. So this is what happened. Once the door was opened, they walked in and picked up Odhiambo, demanding to be handed a firearm that they appeared to believe that he had. They then handcuffed, assaulted and blindfolded him before bundling him into one of their 2 vehicles. One, a white Land Cruiser, remember that car, and a grey double-cabin Toyota pickup. Odhiambo's family would not see him until Thursday, September 29th, when he was found abandoned in Thika town. The relative said, yes, he was found, but he looks really scared. He's not talking much. A source said Odhiambo had been warned against disclosing what had transpired. According to this source, Odhiambo had been bundled into the bonnet of another vehicle where he stayed for hours as the vehicle moved around. He cannot tell where they took him, but they later locked him up in a room and fed him until his release. In an interview with The Nation before her husband was found, Miss Odhiambo's wife, Miss Marianne Wangoi, said they were praying that he was alive. 6 hours after capturing Odhiambo from his house, the gunmen arrived in China Ndogo Plaza apartment in Mwiki. Okay? This man is called Odhiambo. Let's now focus on Odhiambo. Odhiambo is picked up on Thursday, bundled in a pickup and taken where people don't know. 6 hours on the same day, gunmen arrive at Chinandogo Plaza Apartments in Mwiki, where Evelyn Duko, alias Bree, resided. Ms. Duko, according to neighbors, was Otieno's girlfriend. Those who spoke to the Nation said Otieno, the man who was shot 36 times in Utawala. So remember, we were talking about Odhiambo. Now we've introduced Otieno.
Yeah.
Otieno, just to go ahead of the story, is Odhiambo's brother.
Okay.
Odhiambo has been abducted. These guys go to his brother's girlfriend's place in Mwiki, and they find her. And neighbors are saying, yeah, we used to see this guy coming to visit this girl here. He'd come, he was a frequent visitor. Whenever he visited, the two could be seen taking an evening stroll together.
Okay.
A close friend of Ms. Nduko told this reporter that for 2 weeks before she was picked up, the two had not been in good terms. According to the friend, on the same day that Ms. Nduko was picked up and her boyfriend killed, she had shared a photo of Otieno on her WhatsApp status alongside the words, "God, why now?" Huh? The gunmen did not speak to anyone when they came to visit her in this apartment. They walked straight to the 5th floor. They picked Ms. Nduko. Neighbors said some of the men remained behind ransacking the house and only left after they were satisfied that whatever they were looking after, whatever they were after, was not in the house. The men reportedly blindfolded Nduko before leading her out of the building. The Nation is in possession of a video showing how she was bundled into a Land Cruiser by the gunmen, who were dressed in the same way as those who had picked up Odhiambo from his house earlier in the day. After Ms. Nduko was picked up from her home, the gunmen headed to Mihango in Utawala, where Otieno lived. Otieno is Odhiambo's brother and Otieno is Nduko's boyfriend. In Utawala, Otieno was having lunch at Naivas supermarket in the company of a woman. Soon after having this lunch, they left. On that day, Otieno, who normally uses boda boda and who boda boda operators describing as generous to a fault, did not use a boda boda, his favorite means of transport. He decided to walk home. Exactly 50 meters from his house, while still in the company of this woman, Otieno receives a call and excuses himself. He spoke for about 30 minutes, asking the person on the other end to come to his home as he was not willing to leave. Moments later, the two vehicles, which at 3 a.m. had been at his brother's house and which at 11 a.m. had picked up his girlfriend, sped towards where Otieno was. The two vehicles were being driven at a high speed. Moments later, we all heard someone shout, "Ndio huyo mkora, mshike!" A witness told the Nation. Otieno tried to flee. It was too late. The gunman jumped out of the vehicle and shot him from the back. So he's trying to run. He was shot while holding onto a mason who had been working at a nearby site. He ran. There's this guy who's a fundi. He's holding onto the fundi. Bullet gets him. He falls to the ground. The gunman quickly followed Otieno to where he lay and continued shooting at him. Everyone was shocked as the gunshots rent the air. In the video, some of the gunmen can be seen racing after the woman who was with Otieno. They then capture and order her to keep quiet. The Nation has established that they later forcibly bundled her into the Land Cruiser. Remember that Land Cruiser?
Land Cruiser.
The white Land Cruiser. As this was going on, two of the gunmen were standing a few meters from where Otieno lay and continued pumping more bullets into his body. The gunmen next ordered two onlookers to hand over their mobile phones, then shot several times in the air and left. A detective at the DCI told this reporter that Otieno was an associate of Joseph Ngendo Njau, a known drug peddler in the city. They were close allies, according to the detective, though it's hard to tell why he was killed. Njau was found dead in June alongside three members of the Kasarani Four, Obegi, Nyachaya, and Omeka. The three, according to the police, received calls that lured them to a central position before they were picked up, never to be seen again alive. See that whole story. This guy is linked to somebody who was killed. The guy who was killed was linked to those people who had been killed.
Yeah.
And it's not known who these people are. It is then said that on the evening of Nduko's abduction, the white Land Cruiser was spotted at a petrol station in Njiru, where its users were enjoying meals at a hotel. This time, they didn't have arms, they were not wearing any balaclavas or any gloves. They left in the night to an unknown destination.
Are we to read that this is a drug war
taking place in the city?
Yes, in the city of Nairobi. Are we to read that some business deal has gone sour? Are we to read that the disappearances of individuals that ended up in River Yala have begun again, and this time they're not ending up in any river? They're being left dead on the spot where they were found. Are we saying that we are seeing the resurrection of extrajudicial killings yet again? What are we seeing?
It is bizarre.
And all this against a backdrop of a country where you cannot say that we do not have police presence, that we do not have security presence, and that the security presence knows what goes on and even knows of the activities of individuals, especially the ones who are engaged in nefarious activities. They know. So what are we saying?
And who are we saying these gunmen were to be able to be so bold in public?
Who has the gumption to be that bold?
Yeah.
Pick someone, go to a house, pick someone,
Yes.
follow up. I mean, and they're able to really trace people's location.
And they know exactly where you are.
Yeah.
And they already have your number.
Yep.
And from the conversation and from that article, it isn't as though even the people who ended up dead did not know who they were talking to. They did.
They did.
So?
They're not talking to strangers.
No, they're not. Even when somebody was beaten to the draw, they were not conversing with people who they did not know. They knew these people. So what are we dealing with here? What are we talking about? You know that conversation about mental health, that we've talked about, we've broached, we've even attempted to touch. I think, look at the age of the individuals who are involved in this story. None have reached 40.
Yep.
None.
Yep.
Now, these are the ones...
20s and 30s.
Yes. Now, these are the people who seem to be at a certain tier when it comes to whatever activities they're involved in. Such activities don't just involve 3 or 2 people. It can't be with Yambo and Otieno. There are others. How old do you think these people are? So you're saying that you have a situation where, once again, young people seem to be at the cusp of something quite horrible that's happening in this country. I'm not talking about the killing. The killing is horribly terrible. But I'm thinking, what is it that leads young people to go into a life of crime?
What are they really after?
Yes. What is it? Because it's not the options that are there or the options that are not there. What is pushing? What is the mental state of young people that makes it easy and possible for them to consider crime as an option for a career path?
Yep. And quite easily so.
Yes.
Like, you know.
These are the things we read of, and this one is bizarre.
Yeah.
What about the others?
There are many others that we don't hear about. And in this particular case, the nation has then stumbled on video here, video there, and then they can piece together and see same vehicle, same guy, same vehicle, same guy. Same 24 hours, they have abducted 2, shot 1.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy. We'll talk about more stories as we go on with the show today. In the next hour, we talk to Martin Gidenji, sales manager at AMG Realtors Limited. The Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion. Have you bought yourself a piece of land from AMG Realtors? You stand a chance of winning 1 acre of land free. It's easy and a smart choice. Send money for free Airtel to Airtel. Simply dial *334# to get started. Today we are giving away 2,000 shillings worth of airtime. If you go onto our social media, you'll find the question that we are asking. How has Airtel money changed your life? For 2,000 shillings airtime. Tell us just how. And then Amlioto, our social media guy, will pick a winner. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto said the government will re-evaluate the country's budget to manage the ballooning public debt. Speaking in Nyeri County during the funeral of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's brother, the president said he was keen on reducing the country's expenditure to ensure it is manageable. Ruto said that the government is planning to present a new budget estimate in the next 1 month.
Kwa sababu lazima tuambiane ukweli. Ile budget tuko nayo sasa inatufanya tukope karibu shilingi bilioni 900. Na hiyo kukopa lazima tuanze kuipunguza kwa sababu tunaweka madeni makubwa kwa wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya na hasa kwa wale ambao watatufuata baadaye. Lazima tuanze safari ya kupunguza madeni kwa Wakenya. Saa hizi deni la Kenya nimefika karibu trilioni 10 na ndio mimi nimesema juzi budget hii tulio nayo nataka kwanza tupunguze bilioni 300.
He said that the 300 billion shillings cut will be effected and that plans are underway progressively to stop the borrowing spree that has raised the cost of living in recent years, for the calling on all the levels of government to work together.
Na mimi nataka niseme ya kwamba tuko na executive, tuko na legislature na tuko na mahakama zetu. Mimi naomba sisi wote tushirikiane ili tuweze kutekeleza yale yatakayofaa wananchi wa taifa letu la Kenya.
Azimio One Kenya has made a few changes to its leadership in the Senate in an announcement by Speaker Amason Kingi. Azimio appointed Narok Senator Ledamo Lekina as Minority Deputy Whip. Azimio had previously appointed Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna to the position. In the new leadership arrangement of Azimio in the Senate, Kilifi Senator Stewart Madzayo will continue to serve in his position as Minority Leader, assisted by Kitui Senator Enoch Ombua. Isiolo Senator Fatuma Dulo will also remain in the position of Minority Whip, where she will now be assisted by Senator Olekina.
The minority party submitted the names of senators to serve in the minority party leadership. Senator Justice Retired Stewart Mazayo, CBS MP, Senate Minority Leader. Senator Enoch Wambua, MP, Deputy Senate Minority Leader. Senator Fatuma Dulo, CBS MP, Senate Minority Whip. And Senator Ledama Olekina, MP, Deputy Senate Minority Whip.
The changes were made after some MPs and senators complained about the distribution of leadership positions in Parliament. Senator Ledamo Lekina and Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, Babu Owino, were among those who publicly criticized the nominations, a situation that made Azimio leader to effect the changes. The leaders claimed that the youth were excluded from the leadership positions of both houses and that the positions were given to specific individuals in the Kenya Kwanza. The parliamentary leadership has remained as it was adopted, where Kericho Senator Aaron Cheruiyot is the majority leader, while his deputy is Senator Tabitha Karanja. Majority whip is Senator Boni Halwale.
The majority party submitted the names of senators to serve in the majority party leadership. Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, MP, Senate Majority Leader. Senator Tabitha Keroche Karanja, MP, Deputy Senate Majority Leader. Senator Dr. Boni Kalwale, CBS MP, Senate Majority Whip. And Senator Dr. Lelegwe Ntumesi, MP, Deputy Senate Majority Whip.
Now, Uganda's defense ministry has announced that Muhoozi Kainerugaba will no longer lead the country's land forces hours after a social media tirade by the outspoken general caused uproar in Kenya. The ministry said that President Yoweri Museveni had also promoted its 48-year-old son to the rank of general, but analysts said that the elevation was likely a cosmetic move aimed at lowering his profile in the region. Although Kainerugaba has repeatedly denied claims he intends to succeed his 78-year-old father, one of Africa's longest-serving leaders, he has enjoyed a rapid rise through Uganda's army ranks and has often sparked controversy on social media. The move followed an endorsement on the weekend by some senior officials from the ruling National Resistance Movement, who selected Museveni as their candidate in the country's 2026 presidential election. Soon after, Kainerugaba triggered a firestorm on Twitter with tweets discussing plans to invade Kenya. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Traffic heavy on the Thika Superhighway coming into the CBD. We're also looking at the same happening on Kiambu Road. Quite something. Yesterday was an absolute mess. Tear-jerking, heart-shaking kind of things going on in traffic yesterday. Hopefully we'll not have a repeat of the same. But from the look of things, it looks like it's going to get pretty messy really early. So if you're on Kiambu Road, for now, I say sorry. Try to get off it as quickly as you can and as carefully as you can. It's also building up on Limuru Road. You'll see it coming onto Muthaiga Square. You'll also see it right in the middle of Gigiri this morning. James Gishuru, also pretty busy. You're looking at Waiaki Way, busy into the city, busy out of the city. Ring Road Westlands already packing up with traffic, bumper to bumper status already. So it's a busy morning. It's a few minutes after 7 o'clock and it looks like we started traffic hour early, so it looks like it's going to be that busy Wednesday. Let's know what's going on where you are. Talk to us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
7
day.
minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. This is where you get knowledge on how you can win 1 acre of land free on the 10th of October. AMG Realtors is saying, well, if you'd like to know more, tune in now. We have a guest in the studio. Martin Gethenji is a sales manager at AMG Realtors Limited. Before we welcome and introduce him, let's go to Libya, where CT is waiting with the day's proverb.
Yes. What is collected by an ant, C-A-N-T, ant, siafu, okay, in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
So we aren't talking about the ant, we're talking about ants.
Yes, we're not talking about anti, we're talking about ant, siafu.
Okay. What is collected by an ant in a year is
carried away.
Carried away.
By once. Just mara moja tu.
Just once.
Camel's footsteps on it once done. It's off.
Aye. Okay. It's very unfair.
What do you think?
It's the nature of life.
I think that our journeys are different, that some of us, it will take shorter time to achieve what we want in our lives, and others, it will take longer time. So our stories are different. So if you check out your friend and you feel they are doing better than you, I think it's important to wait for your time. Yes.
Recognize you're the ant.
Well, why don't you take the other option of recognize yourself as the camel's foot?
It's taken long. It's taking long for you to get there.
This proper focus is also on the destructive element of certain individuals. But oddly enough, I don't think the camel is even aware of the damage it's doing.
Yeah.
It's just going along its merry way.
It's doing what it would normally do.
Yeah, but the damage is profound.
It's very, very unfair.
Okay, Eric, you're stuck on that unfairness.
It's very, 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 very unfair.
He's an advocate for ants.
Yeah. Mnyonge hana haki.
Hana chake.
Hana chake. Mwenye nguvu mpishe.
Yes.
Ama ajipishe. Martin Gethenji, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. We've been talking about AMG Realtors and the Bamba Shamba promotion, where people stand a chance of winning 1 acre. So this is what we're going to be talking about. But first, for those who were not here when AMG himself was here, just tell us about AMG Realtors, what you do, where you're based and all.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here this morning. My name is Martin Gethinji. I'm in charge of sales at AMG Wouters Limited. And AMG Wouters Limited is a real estate company that has been selling land and property for the last 10 years here in Kenya. And our business is anchored on selling what we own. So we sell what we own to start with. So you have a guarantee that you are buying from the owner, number one. Number two is that we have a 60 days money back guarantee on your title deed. As you all know that without a title deed, you don't have land. Not just any title, but a genuine title deed. So we only sell what we own. We give you a 60 days money back guarantee on your title, which means that after 60 days, if you don't have your title, you get your money back. The third thing is that we have our prices inclusive. That once you invest with us, any of the places that we sell land, you have a guarantee that there are no hidden charges whatsoever. The fourth thing that we stand for as a company, as AMG, is that we are able to take all our customers to the site visit at no extra charge. So today, if Eric, you want to go and see the Nanyuki land, you just tell me the day that you want to go, and I'll take you there for free. I will not charge you, because I want to facilitate you to go and see what you are buying.
Hey, transport and accommodation and meals.
Absolutely.
Tunaenda hii weekend. Nanyuki, here we come.
Good.
So one of the things that you've said...
Hold it. Will you bring us back?
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Leave you in Nanyuki.
You have to be sure.
Yes, just to be sure.
Unapelekwa unalishwa.
Sure. Na unarudishwa.
It's important pia ujue unalishwa.
Carry on with your question.
Okay.
Yes.
So, one, AMG Realtors does not deal with any other property apart from land. You don't sell houses.
Not for now.
Not for now.
Yes.
So right now, for the last 10 years, you've been dealing with land.
Yes,
Land.
Yes.
Developed or undeveloped or both?
Both.
Both developed and undeveloped?
Yes, because in the recent times, there have been a demand for developed land. People are asking, can we get somewhere where we can buy and start building immediately? So due to the demand in the recent times, we have been now developing some of our projects, which I'll be mentioning later in this conversation.
Okay,
Yes.
Second bit of the question. You've talked about there are no hidden charges. So lands that you have currently on sale range from 150,000 shillings to 4.7 million shillings. That's what we are talking about in this promotion. That means if I pay 150,000 shillings for a piece of land, the one that is going for 150, that takes care of everything.
Correct.
Including transfer, legal fees, everything.
Everything. And for our customers in the diaspora, I think it's important to add this. For example, the 150,000 Kenya shillings, if you are in the US, if you are in Canada, if you are in Australia, we are able to ship and courier your title to your location via DHL still at the same cost.
Why?
Because our prices are inclusive of everything.
Ah.
No extra charge whatsoever.
What if I want to pay the extras myself? Niuzie shamba 70,000. Nitajipeleka Nanyuki.
How much will you reduce it for?
remember that trip that had been planned for Nanyuki?
Yes.
The branch off to Madare.
And drop me there.
Drop you there first before they continue.
You have a question for Martin?
You know, whenever you say that there are no extra charges, whenever you say all inclusive, I'd like to know what you mean.
Thank you very much, Muga, for that question. Number one, to start with, when we are talking about land transfer, there are some costs that are accrued when you're doing land transfer. Number one, you need a lawyer or an advocate to draft a sales agreement. So to start us off, it's a sales agreement that is legally binding between the buyer and the seller. So the services or the legal services are catered for on the cost, so which means that the legal services have been factored in. Secondly, when you're doing land transfer, there is a tax implication called stamp duty.
Yep.
The land transfer incurs a tax implication called stamp duty, so it's also included there. The third thing is title processing. Once we take the transfer document to any land registry in the whole of Kenya, because we have land offices, the whole of this country, there are costs accrued when you're doing land transfer. We're talking about typing of the titles, processing of those titles. All those costs are also included on this cost, which means that from start to end, all the costs to transfer and get you the title are included there, Muga.
Right.
What made you decide to do this?
We decided to do this because of something called convenience. We all understand that every single person is doing something respective of purchasing land. Muga, you are here in the morning together with Andrew and Eric. And so because of our daily activities, you want convenience in terms of purchase. You want to go walk into a store, for example, get everything inside there. One store shopping. You understand what I mean?
Yep.
That when you walk into a store, you're able to get everything that you want at a go. You don't want to walk into a store, then get out, drive another 5 kilometers to get something else that you wanted. So the convenience is what we looked at when we put the price as inclusive, one-stop shop. Now, once you invest with us, you have a guarantee that you don't need to drive another office to get the same services that you could have gotten from AMG. So that's the reason we put the price as inclusive.
Okay.
Good.
So the offerings that you have around the country, and it's interesting because you talk about, land owned by AMG, and that is what you sell. So it's not a gamble in terms of we're going to get it from somebody else, no liaison, no middleman kind of thing. So why have you picked the areas in Kenya that you have? We've seen Malindi, Nanyuki, Juja. Why those particular areas, or is it just where it was available?
Thank you very much. What informs the decision to purchase in the areas that we sell is because of, number one, the demand. We conduct surveys to our customers and ask them, where would you want to purchase land in Kenya? So we conduct surveys, we send questionnaires to our customers. So it's through the customer feedback that we say, okay, the customers are saying, get us something in Kikuyu area. So we go there, survey, do our due diligence, purchase something at Kikuyu. We do another survey. Where would you want us to buy land? So the reason to purchase in the areas that we sell is primarily based on the customers, what the customer wants. Because at the end of the day, you might buy something and then there's no one who is buying because people are not interested in a certain area. So we conduct surveys first before we embark on the purchase process as a company. Yes.
Okay. You're also looking at some properties that then are around upcoming projects. So then what is the motivation behind that? And what can folks look forward to for the pieces that they pick up that are next to government projects, national projects? Looking at the Malindi example, for example.
Thank you. What we have seen over time when it comes to real estate investment here in Kenya is that majority of the times there is land appreciation in areas where government is heavy on investment, also when it comes to infrastructure development. So when you look at, for example, satellite towns in this Nairobi in Kenya, primarily in Nairobi, satellite towns, you're talking about those towns outside Nairobi city that are connected to infrastructure development. You're talking about roads and public colleges and universities. We're talking about, for example, Juja. The Thika Superhighway, for example, which was a huge infrastructure development, has really opened up areas like Juja. So by investing or by purchasing a piece of land at Juja gives our customers the opportunity to be able to invest and buy something at Juja and, for example, work here in Nairobi, work on Mombasa Road. The other area, for example, Malindi, with the solar farm being done next to where our project is, there is a spiral effect, there is a multiplier effect of the investments that the government is doing towards the plots that we are selling in and around the same location. Yes, so it's a multiplier effect. Yes.
Okay. What does AMG mean? What does it stand for?
Thank you very much. AMG stands for integrity, and we usually say that we don't just sell land, we sell value, and it is connected to the pieces of land that we sell in the areas that we sell, that once you walk to AMG, you are not just buying land, it's it's value that you're buying, number one. Number two, convenience, that you're able to pay and get your title inclusive of everything that we've mentioned. The other thing about AMG is that we look at long-term as a business. This is our 10th year in business. So what about that is that we are able to look at the long-term view of real estate investment here in Kenya. By having our physical addresses at Thika Road means that you can always get us there every single time you want to come back and get more information on where you invested 10 years ago. So AMG stands for convenience, stands for integrity, and also stands for value and service to our customers.
Let's say, for instance, I wanted a piece of land, but it isn't in any of the areas that you've advertised as having land. Are you the sort of organization that would help me look for land where I want it?
That's a very good question, Muga. Actually, because we usually have a lot of requests, Eric, and do in regards and our listeners about certain areas that we are not selling. And our core mandate is that we only sell what we own and what we have currently. So if you have a certain area, for example, just giving an example, Ruiru, if we don't have in Ruiru particularly, we say we don't have it now. And what we usually do is that we collect now, it's part of collection of the feedback from our customers. So we say, Muga today has told me to get something at Ruiru. So if tomorrow, a certain listener who is listening, SpiceFM right now, says, I also want Ruiru. Another one says Ruiru. So I'll compile all the list of the customers who have asked me Ruiru, and that will form the basis of our next investment as a company, because the customers are demanding for that particular location. So it goes back to what we mentioned, that the places that we buy is informed by demand of our customers.
You know, the process of buying land in this country, for most people, is a bit of a landmine. You are never really certain. Perhaps that is why what AMG stands for now is music to the ears. At least it is music to my ears. But if you're a realtor, if you're somebody who deals in property or land, because if I have money and I want a property, I even know what the property is it possible for me to engage you to get that property for me? The reason why I ask is, somebody whose business it is to deal in property or land is probably better placed to even get a better price, is better placed to understand things about that better than I do. Why? You already have a network. You know who to ask. You know what to find out about. You know how to go about negotiating. Far better than I, a simple person who simply has money and I want to buy land with it. Are you the sort of organization that would be able to do this?
I would say I think it's important for me to be clear on this, because ideally there is more to purchasing land than just the transaction. Even if you are an organization that has been selling land 10 years, we are still exposed to such issues as being conned, even as a company. So there is more than meets the eye when it comes to land purchase, that even as a company, really, we usually look at first investing on what we want to sell to you. Because by us purchasing what we want to sell to you, Muga, it means one thing, that we are willing to go the long way to put our money so that if anything comes after that, we know that we have placed our money first. I mean, we've purchased the land first before we sell it to you. So it's a very good question, but I think it's important to mention that for now, we are not able to buy on behalf. Even if you want a location that we don't have, we might not be able to purchase on behalf if we haven't owned the land, because it goes against, at the end of the day, the spirit of what we do as a company. So maybe we try and purchase first as a company, and then we look at how to sell it, to have an engagement with you. Muga.
I've heard what you've said. So even if I give you money to buy it for me, you won't buy it.
You want a consultant. You want someone to do the runaround. You have identified land.
That is precisely what I want.
I should have done that. Identified a consultant.
That's
precise. He sold me that piece of rock.
You, my friend, wanted a piece of land with a view. I sold this man a piece of property on a hill. Now, unfortunately, most hills have rock.
Okay.
Now, he forgets that he has the view. He just keeps focusing on the rock.
Okay.
And it's not entirely rock. It's just predominantly rock.
All you see is rock. I didn't say view of rock.
You said views.
That view, Bana.
Okay.
You're giving away, because you're celebrating 10 years as AMG Realtors, you're giving away 10 acres of land for free. Tell us about this promotion.
Thank you. So as AMG, we are celebrating 10 years in business. So we are giving away up to 10 acres of land. So we are saying it's 10 for 10. Now that we've been in the business for 10 years, the best way to say thank you to our customers is through giving them what we do best, which is selling land. And that's the reason we are giving away 10 acres of land in Nanyuki, what we are calling Bamba Shamba Reloaded. So there's someone who's asking, why reloaded? Why are we reloading it? So we started with Bamba Shamba. We had such a campaign where we gave away 5 acres. That is last year. So this is a more enhanced version of the same, Bamba Shamba Reloaded. It's a promotion by AMG Realtors, which is running from 25th, which is running from 3rd of September up to 25th of November. Ideally, we just want to say thank you to our customers through giving them what we do best, which is land. And in giving this land, we are doing it this way. These are the mechanics. Okay. Number one, for you to be part of winning these 10 acres that we are giving away. By the way, and we have already given 1 acre to a guy called Mustafa, a Kenyan guy, by the way, who have invested with us. So he invested with us and he actually won 1 acre last month. So we are giving another acre on 10th, which is next Monday. And there's someone who's asking, how do I become part of this? Number one, once you invest in any of our locations, from the 150 to 4.5 million investments that we have scattered across the country, every 50,000 you make in terms of a payment, you get 1 ticket. Eric, you get 1 ticket. Every 50,000 earns you 1 ticket to enter into the draw. There is no limitation as to how much you can pay. If you pay 100,000, automatically those are 2 tickets. If you pay 500,000, if, for example, we are selling a land in Nakuru going for 450,000 and another one 500,000, you get 10 tickets. So, of course, the more you pay, the more the tickets, the higher your chances of winning. So the next acre, we are giving it on 10th of October. So it's a promotion to thank our customers. So number one, it's through investing that you get a chance to win the acres that we are giving away. Okay. So you can only win after investing.
Is Mustafa going to be in the draw again for this Monday one?
Yes.
He has already won 1 acre, Bana.
He's still investing with us.
Oh, he's still investing.
Yes.
So if I invest today, I pay like 100,000 shillings, I get 2 tickets. It goes into Monday's draw. Will it go into another draw if I don't win?
Yes, it will still continue to go to the next draw.
Until the end of the promotion.
Correct. Until the mega draw, the main draw, which we are giving 5 acres.
So Mustafa got an acre. There's somebody who's going to win an acre on Monday. How many winners are you looking at?
We are looking at 6 winners. So 5 people are going to win 1 acre each. So 1 is done, so we are looking at 4, sorry. So the 4, we are talking about the 1 on Monday. So after Monday, there will be 3 for 3 people. And the main one will be 5 acres. So in total, we are looking at 6 people winning 10 acres. 5 acres to 5 people and 1 person walking away with a 5-acre piece of land in Nanyuki.
Do they require anything extra, the one who stands a chance of winning the 5 acres? Or it's still 50,000 bob ticket? Can win me 5 acres.
Correct, absolutely.
And I can win 1 acre. Like Mustafa can also win
even 5 acres.
5 acres.
Correct. And not just the 5 acres.
You can even win. You can be the one winner who wins
everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough.
Yes, Bahati Nasibu.
Alafu, on top of that, in addition to that, you get to win amazing weekly prizes. For example, we have an Amazon voucher, Amazon, Walmart, and Naivas vouchers every single week, which are worth $300. So we're talking about around 36,000 Kenya shillings every single week until 25th. So not besides the acres that you're giving away, there is also mini prizes which include a Walmart, Amazon, and of course Naivas vouchers worth around 36,000 Kenya shillings.
Where is this land?
The land is in Nanyuki.
Where?
Nanyuki, a place called Olpajeta area, 15 minutes drive from Nanyuki town. As you all know, Nanyuki is a tourist destination, and I believe that's the reason Muga is saying we need to go there. And it is famously known because of the amazing conservancies, the views, by the way, Muga, the views of Mount Kenya.
Proper view.
They are spectacular. Actually, from where we are giving the land, the views are amazing. There are a lot of conservancies in Nanyuki. Security is in check. And of course, the convenience of getting to Nanyuki is also a plus. You can do the rail, you can fly, you can actually drive there. It's a 2.5 hours drive from Nairobi to Nanyuki. And of course, the best thing about it is that even besides the acres that you're giving in Nanyuki, we also have amazing investment opportunities in and around where we are giving the 10 acres.
So I can buy land also adjacent to this.
Correct.
Buy, win.
Keep winning.
Own Nanyuki.
Yeah.
Next thing, Governor. 7:30. Let's take a break. Martin Gethenji is a sales manager at AMG Realtors Limited. We're talking about the Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion. If you want to know more about it, text the word Shamba to 40299. 40299. Just take the word Shamba, and they will then let you know where they are selling pieces of land. Remember, what you need to do is buy any piece of land from wherever the various locations they're selling, from as low as 150,000 to 4.5 million. Every 50,000 is an entry to a draw. One draw is taking place on Monday for a chance to win an acre. There'll be more draws, and the grand prize is 5 acres of land. Time for a break. We'll be back shortly. Very good morning to you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, partly sunny conditions in Nairobi at 15, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 25 in a rainy Nakuru now at 13. It's 17 and partly sunny in Nyeri, highs of 26 and lows of 15. Partly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 13, highs of 24 and lows of 12. And we're looking at a bit of a drizzle in parts of Mombasa at 23, going to highs of 29. 29 will also be the high in a partly wet Malindi at 23, and light rain in parts of Kisumu at 19, highs of 28. 28 will also be the high in a sunny Kakamega at 19, and it's 18 and cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27 and lows of 17. Partly sunny conditions at 22 in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 29, and it's 16 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 28 and lows of 15. Mostly clear conditions now in Lagos at 24, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 32 in a clear Kinshasa, currently at 25.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so the really busy traffic situation on the Thika Superhighway still continues, and we're looking at that going well past that outer ring junction. It's coming in from Kiambu County from all indications, and we're seeing it heavy as well on Kiambu Road as you get towards Muthaiga Square. Into Limuru Road, coming in from most parts of the city, we're seeing that really heavy, and also traffic on Uhuru Highway in both directions has built up to crazy levels. It's busy on James Gishuru, that whole Westlands area. We will see traffic as well as coming off of Langata Road as you're going towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Okay. But what are we looking at as well? Rilo Dingo Way, still some traffic as well. It's going to pack up for some time. A few minutes after 7:30, that's what it looks like. Let us know what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
The conversation continues on Spice FM and KTN Home, the Situation Room with Eric Latif, Nduoko, CT Muga, and our guest, Martin Gedeji of Negodas. AMG Realtors Limited, talking about the Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion for people who are forward-thinking, like Mugo Alex, who says, now that AMG is giving us some place to build a countryside home, the next step is getting some farmland, some place in Nanyuki. Martin, what other areas are you selling land?
Thank you. Thank you. So we are also selling outside Nanyuki. We are also selling in Nakuru. So actually we have our other offices in Nakuru. So we are at Pipeline area in Nakuru and also Bahati area in Nakuru. Nakuru, as you know, is a city right now. And actually a lot of people would want to invest in Nakuru. That's the reason we have our second office there. And outside Nakuru, we also have Naivasha. We have some land in Naivasha, Longonot area, Dry Port area, where there is now the industrial park that the current president mentioned on the inauguration day. We're also talking about the Kikuyu area. So Kikuyu is such an important area in our business right now because it's only roughly 30-45 minutes drive from the CBD, and the area is one of the satellite towns in Nairobi, and majority of the people are actually preferring living in Kikuyu and actually working in Nairobi. So this particular project is located along Dagoretti Mutarakwa Road precisely, and it's red soil. When it comes to building, soil is quite important to do. So it's red soil. We are actually doing value addition. You have mentioned about developing and adding value to some of our projects. So Kikuyu is one of those projects. We are building a perimeter wall around the property. It's only 4 acres, so it's a small piece of land. And we've actually sold almost half of the project. So very few parcels are remaining. We are putting...
how big are the parcels?
The 50 by 100 in size, or eighth of an acre. So we are doing roads access inside, demarcation of the roads and grading them. We are also doing solar street lights inside so that you can be able to actually buy and build immediately. So the reason why we are doing that is so that you can be able to buy and build. Outside Kikuyu, we also have Juja. I had mentioned about Juja. We have Juja Prime Phase 4. Same things that we are doing at Kikuyu, we are doing them at Juja, building the wall. It's only 30 minutes from Nairobi CBD. It's almost actually 100 meters from the tarmac road. We are doing a wall, perimeter wall, the street lights, water, electricity as value addition so that you can be able to buy and build immediately. Of course, outside Juja, we also have Makoyo, we have Kangudo Road, Kantafu, also less than 1 hour from Nairobi. We have Malindi, we have Emali, we have Kikopei, we have Isinya. So those are some of the areas that we are selling currently. Yes.
Many of the pieces of land around Kikuyu, you can go to Juja, you can go to Kantafu, places that you can walk or jog as you prepare for the marathon. You know there's a marathon on the 30th.
Yeah.
So as you prepare for that marathon, jog over to Kikuyu, see AMG Realtors piece of land, jog over back home, or you can go to Kantafu, you can go to Juja.
Killing two birds with one stone, literally.
This is exactly what you need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Feeling like an athlete.
Okay. So this land that people will win essentially in the draw, will they be sure that you would do the same things, or will they have to go and start, sorting out the issues for themselves, whoever wins? Is it land that is already, will it be structured? Will there be a fence? Will there be access roads kind of thing? Or are we looking at land in the middle of nowhere, then you must then now go and figure out for yourself, even if you've won it?
Good question. So this land that we are giving, the up to 10 acres, is actually it's one block 10 acres. And as you all know, when it comes to subdivision of land in this country, once you subdivide a 10-acre piece of land, you have to give allocation to roads access before the land has been approved for subdivision. So that has been done, and we are going to demarcate and grade the roads, number one. Number two, we are not only giving you a piece of land, we are also transferring it to your name. So we are not just leaving you stranded, that now you've won, you don't know what to do from there. We'll go and show you where the land is, show you the beacons, because we are putting the beacons for you, the roads are there, and of course transfer the same to your name without any charges whatsoever, going with the line of what we usually say, that once you buy with us, you get everything inclusive up to the point that you get your title deed. So we are doing the roads, the beacons, everything on the person who wins the land. Yep.
Okay.
Matt, there's some people who are listening to this. They hear 150,000 shillings to 4.5 million shillings, and they're thinking, I'd like to talk to AMG Realtors today, but I don't have cash immediately. Is there a payment plan, how you can structure that? I want to buy a piece of land, for example, the Kikuyu one or wherever, but malipo ya pole pole.
Asante sana. So I want to speak to you who is listening to you, because you've been maybe you've heard about land investment. Maybe you heard about our CEO who was here the other day talking about land investment. And you're wondering, is this something that I can be able to do if I don't have all the money to pay up the whole amount? So we have two payment options. There is a cash payment and there is the installment option. So the installment option really means that you start with a deposit, what you've been able to save. And the reason why there is an installment option is because we understand as a company that besides investing in land, there are other things that you are doing. So with that in mind, we are able to give you a staggered payment plan so that you can start with a deposit to start us off. And then the balance, we structure it in a way that you'll be able to pay the monthly installment until you finish up the amounts. And the best thing about our installments package is if we agree, for example, that Nakuru installment is 450,000. If we agree that you pay 100,000 upfront and the balance in 4 months, the price will not change at the 4th month. It will still be at 450,000. So you can actually pay up a deposit and then the balance for a monthly installment up to the point where you finish up your payments. The only thing is that we only transfer the title up to the last installment.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any penalty for default or late payment?
So this is usually guided via the sales agreement that we have between us and the buyer. So if we agree that you'll be remitting your installment on 10th, and for example, you are not able to pay on 10th, you just have a conversation and tell me, can I pay it on 15th? And actually, some people actually pay it on 5th instead of 10th. So in the worst case scenario that you are not able to pay on 10th, we just have a conversation, because at the end of the day, our work is to give you the same land that you are buying. Our work is not to not give you the land. It's actually to give you the land. So our wish is you to finish up your payment, so actually that we can be able to transfer the plot to your name.
Land buying in this country, unfortunately, for those of us who work in, as we call it, this space called the media, the stories we often hear are harrowing, scary. Money spent, land not there. A relative in the diaspora sent money for land to be bought, land not bought. Land bought, paid for, upon the visit, you suddenly find it's not exactly where you were told it was. Maybe the general locality, but not quite there. Having bought the land, you're suddenly told that mention of hidden costs, or there was this, and there was the other, and there was the other, then something which I came across, which was even more interesting, is that if you are clever enough to do what you call a search, you actually find that the land you're buying, you're not the only one who's vying for it. There are people who even have a title for that particular piece of land. In some cases, you get a title, but you find you're not the only one who has the title. So it is scary. How do you communicate the message to your potential buyers and potential clients that all these dreary, scary stories that people have heard and heard about land, that you as AMG are presenting not just the complete opposite, but a complete shift from any of that, and that you have absolute guarantees that what you say you will get is exactly what you will get?
Thank you. So to start, I think it's important to mention that one of the key hindrances to land investment here in Kenya is the fear that emanates from past experiences, whether it's yourself or through someone that you know. Every single person, the people who are listening to this conversation this morning, there's someone who knows someone who has been duped out of their hard-earned cash. That one is an absolute truth, that there's someone who you know who has been conned out of their hard-earned money. And with this realization as a company, we might not be able to change the whole sector, but the things that we are doing is a good step, a right step towards ensuring that we are getting it right in terms of land investment in this country. So Muga was asking, how do we communicate this to our customers, to you who is listening to this conversation, and you still have the same feeling, I still don't trust any land seller out there. There's someone who is saying, I don't care whether you give 60-day money-back guarantee. I really don't care whether
those
you
are
own.
Stories.
Those are stories. You know what I mean? There's someone who is saying, okay, sawa. So there's now this thing of standing on what you believe in as an organization. So not one time, not two times I'm told, I'll give you a very good commission if you sell me this land on my behalf, for example. And as a company, we just say, no, we can't be able to do that. You know, Muga was asking me earlier, if I give you money, can you be able to buy for me a plot in a certain area that you guys don't sell? So at the end of the day, when I say I'm not able to do that, what I'm trying to communicate is that I'm not able to delve into something that as a company I'm not sure of. So this arrangement that we have as a company, by the way, we might not be able to move as fast in terms of getting a lot of areas around the country. We might not be able to move as fast, but we have a long-term view of the business that will not be able to move as fast, really, in terms of getting all those areas. But the guarantee is that where we are selling, that we have done due diligence, we've paid fully for the amounts, we've done our due diligence, we've visited the location, we've asked the people around, we've gone to the chief, we've asked them about the validity of what we are buying, we've done our search, not once, not twice. So there is authority that you are buying, whatever that you're buying from AMG, we've done due diligence. We've gone the long way to ensure that what we are selling to you is above board. And I believe that's the reason we actually spend much of our time buying than selling. Yes.
Many of the people who are buying pieces of land from you, what do they end up doing with the land? Are they speculators, or are they coming in to develop? Maybe build homes and build apartments for rentals? Or?
I would say it's a mixture of different reasons, because the lands that we sell are most ideal for different things. And so it presents opportunities for building residential houses. For example, case in point, Juja and Kikuyu areas, and of course, to an extension, Kangudo Road area, are places where people want to build and still work in and around Nairobi area. So we have seen people who are actually building at Juja, Kikuyu, and Kangudo Road. They are already living there and working here in Nairobi, CBD. That's number one. Number two, there are people who are looking to do commercial facilities so that they can be able to get income out of it. In the future, now in the future. So that's another ideal thing, and what our customers are actually doing to invest on a land that they can do something commercial, build apartments, rentals, and to get income from it. And of course, the third and fourth thing is retirement homes and holiday homes. We've seen over time that there are people who have a home in Nairobi and they want somewhere they can actually be going in Nanyuki and save on the cost of Airbnbs and hotels. So there are people who are actually doing holiday homes, and when they are not holidaying, they are actually now renting them out on Airbnb and all that. And of course, the fourth is an investment option where you buy now, and of course, you sit on it and sell later. Yeah.
There's also the issue of people buying land in an area where they are strangers or foreigners. And I don't mean foreigners ex-Kenya. I mean within the country that you may not necessarily be part of this particular community. Do you find that it would be an issue buying land in a place that, you don't know the area, you do not know the community, but that you who is from the coast, for example, is going to buy, or lives in the coast, is going to buy a piece of land in Nanyuki, for example, where you know of no one, you're not part of the community. Is that a challenge?
It's usually not a challenge. I haven't seen it as a challenge, really, because when people are making investments, there's a reason why they are investing on any of the projects that we sell. So you find that people are like-minded. If you want to buy from, if you are from coast and you want to buy in Kikuyu or Juja, for example, the people who are investing either in Juja or in Kikuyu, irrespective of where they come from, have one or similar ideas on what they want to do. I mean, it's akin to what we see on the estates that we live in Nairobi. I mean, majority of the times, the next neighbor is not preferably from the same area where you are from, but ideally, you are brought by the same interest, a gated community, security, convenience, and all that. So I believe at the end of the day, it's a convenience, it's the security, what you are looking out for. And as I've said, the perfect example is the estates that we live here in Nairobi. Your most next neighbor most probably comes from a different region from where you are, and you are brought together by different ideas. And as I've mentioned, security, convenience, and of course, convenience to shopping, malls, and all that.
Martin, land has just become something else in this country. So first we talk about it being an emotive thing, then now it has just become the one thing that you use to brag. I own a piece of land, I have a piece of land, I own a piece of rock that I bought from this gentleman.
And views.
And views of rocks. What we end up having is a serious fragmentation of the country, land buying and selling that does not take into consideration any physical planning or plans for an area. So when I buy a piece of land, for example, I'll want to build, but then I don't have access to a sewer system. I don't have access to water trunking. I don't have access to nearby amenities, schools, hospitals, and such. Do you take all these factors into consideration when you're buying the piece of land before you come and start selling it to us? Do you, for example, look, in this area, this is Naivasha, this is the plan for this area that's come from the county government, from the local government, this is the overall plan, these are the subdivision laws, this is what's going to happen in this area. You have bought 100 acres, you're subdividing. Have you made provisions for schools are going to be here, a shopping center, a hospital can be put up here?
Yes, we usually look at those factors, and ideally I think it's important to mention, as a company that is AMG Waters Limited, even before we talk about provision of amenities, even location. For example, the distance from main tarmac road, for example, shopping centers, is something that we really look at before we invest on any piece of land in this country. And some of those areas that we've mentioned will tell you that there's something that we looked at when it comes to infrastructure developments that helped us to actually go ahead and invest there. That's number one, the location. Number two, because we don't just want to the reason why I'm saying that is because we don't want to just buy anywhere for the sake of it because we are selling land. We look at the location quite clearly so that the customer who is investing with us is able to access where they are buying at their own convenience. Number two, when it comes to physical planning, you've mentioned something critical because this land buying and selling, majority of the times is brought about by the demand. And because of the demand, as an organization, what are we doing about it so that we are part of the structural adjustments that are there within the government centers, so that when we are investing in any piece of land, we are able to allocate those amenities to our customers. So what we usually do is that before approvals of some majority of these lands that we are selling to our customers, is that there are allocations to amenities. Malindi, Juja, Kikuyu, Nanyuki. If I send you our map, you'll see open spaces. We actually mark them as open spaces. And those open spaces are for amenities to be used by the future developers of these investments that we are doing. We don't want to go the shortcut. We go the long way. So in these approvals, there is a demand that we must allocate roads, certain sizes of roads, 9 meters, 15 meters. We don't want to go the shortcut way as an organization. So if you are investing with us, if you are listening to this conversation and you want to invest in one or some of the areas that we are selling, we'll actually send you a map and show you where those amenities are on the projects that we are selling.
Do people then, pick up the piece of land from you and then maybe go into reselling? And if they go into reselling, how does then that work? They got the original title from you, for example, and then they want to resell. Do you see that happens a lot, or people are keeping these pieces that they purchase then within their own possession?
We've seen several people who'd want to resell what they have bought with us, and because we know the history of where they are selling, we sold to them. So because we know the history, that is the only time that we are able to actually connect them with a would-be buyer, connect them, because we know the history. So it's only during this particular situation that actually we are able to connect you and to help you get a buyer, because we know that we sold it to you and it's clean. Yeah.
You know the history of the land.
Yeah.
Okay. As we conclude the conversation, Martin, let's go back into the Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion. For those maybe who joined the conversation late, you're giving away 10 acres of land as commemoration for AMG Realtors' 10 years in operation, but you're giving it to 6 winners. Explain.
Thank you very much. So we have Bamba Shamba Reloaded by AMG Realtors Limited, which is a promotion to reward our customers for the last 10 years that we've been in business of selling land. And we want to say thank you, Asante Sana, for choosing to invest with AMG Realtors Limited. So this is how we are doing it. As a land selling company, we thought about it and felt the best way to reward our customers is to give them this very same thing that we sell, which is land. And for this reason, as we celebrate 10 years, we are giving away up to 10 acres to 6 people. We started in September, and how to go about it is that for you to be part of this promotion, you have to invest with us so that you can become or be part of this Bamba Shamba Reloaded promotion. So we have already given 1 acre of land in September by someone who has already invested with us. So if you want to become part of this, it's very simple. You choose any of the projects that we've mentioned, from Malindi all the way to Juja. We're talking about Kangudo Road, Emali, Kikuyu. So once you invest with us, every 50,000 that you pay earns you 1 ticket to the draw to win another acre that you are giving on 10th. And of course, the other 8 acres will be given subsequently later in October and of course in November. The grand draw will be on 25th of November, where we are giving 5 acres to 1 investor. So you can also be part of the winner of the 5 acres in November.
Fantastic. To know more about this, text the word Shamba to 40299. So we are going to Nanyuki over the weekend. Gari iko tayari. Huyu ako na mafuta, ako na gari, ako na chakula, ako na nyumba, lunch. Tukitoka huko kuna shamba, tumenunua, alafu tushinde shamba. This is what's happening. And they say, if you want to visit any of the places that they are selling pieces of land, they organize for you transport free of charge. And whatever amount they tell you you're buying a piece of land for, it does not have any hidden charges. If it's 150,000, it's 150,000. No other calls of, unajua kuna pesa ya kuprocess title.
Kuna pesa ya wakili.
Kuna pesa ya wakili. Kuna those things. Thank you very much, Martin, for joining us. Martin Gadenji, Sales Manager, AMG Realtors Limited. Good morning, 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Nitugab Dennis Aseto. Siaya Governor James Orengo has placed County Secretary Joseph Ogutu and all county chief officers on mandatory leave. The move is intended to give the task force charged with conducting a forensic audit of the county's financial operations enough time to complete its work. The governor also made changes to the county's finance department, naming Richard Mungla as the new CEC for finance. Orengo has also asked the people of Siaya County to provide the task force with the resources it needs to do its job effectively.
Executive Committee member for Finance and Economic Planning will be Mr. Richard Mungla. He, the County Executive Committee member for Enterprise and Industrial Development, will be Mr. Cleophas Ombogo, which means there's been a change of roles. C, Acting County Executive member for Water, Environment, Natural Resources and Climate Change shall be Dr. Elizabeth Odhiambo. That means Dr. Elizabeth Odhiambo will be handling two dockets, water and agriculture.
He has also urged the EACC and DCI, which are currently investigating gross financial irregularities in the county, to expedite the investigation so that appropriate action can be taken against those implicated in graft.
We call upon the EEC and the DCI to expedite and conclude investigations, as the perennial presence of these agencies within our institutions without appropriate executive action being taken has the effect of disrupting activities and the work of the county government.
And Kisii Governor Simba Arati has continued to accuse his predecessor James Ongwae of condoning economic crimes during his tenure. Addressing the assembly during its official opening, Arati told the MCAs that there was a lot of waste in the employment departments, tax collection and in the top management offices during Ongwae's leadership, and added that senior officials used lower level officials to achieve their aspirations.
How do you explain instances where some staff members are on a permanent and pensionable basis with a copy of their national ID as the only qualification? No academic qualifications, let alone work experience. The employment of staff as county drivers without taking into consideration county needs, and acquisition of goods and services without taking into account their use and implementation.
Arati has revealed that there were more than 2,500 government officials who were defrauding the county of money in different ways, including foreign allowances, bank account fraud and tax theft.
For instance, there are 24 cases of shared bank accounts, 192 cases of officers with the same national identification numbers but with different tax pins. That one ID, Mr. Speaker, enables 192 different PIN numbers. That's different accounts. If one person earning salary for 192.
Now, the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority has received a lobbying boost from Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr., who was pledged to advocate for a 3 billion shillings recapitalization of the state commercial agency. Speaking when he flagged off a more than 101 million shillings health commodities consignment for Makueni County health facilities, Governor Mutula Jr. underscored the need to provide sufficient financial resources to KEMSA to facilitate positive health outcomes. At the function in Woodley Town, also attended by Makueni Senator Daniel Manzo, Governor Mutula Jr. further decried the continued use of judicial applications to derail reforms at KEMSA, effectively hurting health services provision at the devolved units. Now, the National Police Service continues to embrace technology in enhancing efficiency and ease of access to police services. According to NPS, the police electronic crash system, piloted between 2019 and 2021, recorded a total of 17,000 locations of accidents within Nairobi County. The e-crash project, developed in partnership with the Development Impact Evaluation Department at the World Bank, the European Union, and funded by the African Development Bank, is a digital platform that registers real-time accident data, including location, time, cause, and severity of the crash. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, traffic still on the Thika Superhighway this morning coming into the city. We're looking at it's still heavy as you get towards that Pangani underpass. And on the western side, we're also looking coming out of Westlands. Then further on, Naivasha Road, touching with Gitanga Road. And James Gishuru getting over to Wayaki Way, pretty heavy still. And we're going to see some of that past 8 o'clock, well into probably 9. So that part of the city really jam-packed. Outer Ring not doing too badly, but we're seeing North Airport Road then connecting to Outer Ring, which has quite some traffic, and it's going to tail back all the way through then to the Thika Superhighway. So traffic still continues there. Keeping an eye on things this morning. Let us know what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's try to keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It is 7 minutes after 8. The conversation continues. This is The Situation Room. KTN Home, SpiceFM, YouTube and Facebook, SpiceFM KE, and our website as well. We want now to talk about genetically modified organisms. That thing that is making people now start wondering, what is this that President Ruto wants to do to us and our children? The cabinet recently, of course, we were talking about it even yesterday, has lifted the ban on GMOs and GMO foods in the country. We'll be talking about that. Before we welcome our guest, CT has the day's proverb.
I do. What is collected by an ant in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
What is collected by an ant in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
That's it. You asked the question, do they have a president? Well, yes.
The ants?
No.
Oh.
Libya.
Ah.
Yes. Now, whether the ants in Libya have a president, I wouldn't know. But yes.
Sorry.
In Libya, they have something they call the chairman of the Presidential Council for the state. They have a council. Now, there was a president, and they were supposed to have an election, and the understanding was that it was supposed to be first election 2018. They said, forget election.
We can't.
Sorry. Then they slated the election again for December 20th, 2021. Again, they said, sorry. Now, the equivalent of their IEBC, which is called the National Council on Election Commission, they dissolved the electoral board.
Nice.
Okay.
The commission dissolved the board.
Yes, there is a commission, Electoral Commission, there's a board that now runs the election. That's why I said IEBC. Okay, it's like getting rid of the secretariat. Okay, so now the election that you speak of, Bado, yes.
So the Chebukati has fired their Marjan.
No. It's Chebukati and the Chebukati and the other the Gulie and the other fellows plus the other 4.
Yes,
that's the commission. Now
they've gone to Marjan in the secretariat.
Secretariat and you and so go home. So the issue of the elections, bad.
Again.
Bad. But they have 3 candidates who are vying for the election, wherever it will be. Just so that you understand.
Okay.
Yes.
Sawa. Do they eat GMO?
I wouldn't know, would I? No. The thing is...
Anyway, you know what I'm asking. Emmanuel Atamba is the coordinator at Route to Food. He's here with us today to talk about food and the route to GMO. Emmanuel, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation. Good to have you on the show.
Asante sana. This is my show, so I'm very happy to be here to contribute to the show.
This is the kind of show that you like to have.
Kabisa.
Bas. Tell us about Route to Food.
Yeah, so Route to Food is an initiative and also has an alliance around it of individuals, Kenyans who are fighting for the realization of the right to adequate food. And part of our work, the initial phase of our work was first of all to create awareness on the right to food. But then, when you tell people they have a right to food, then they ask you how. How are we going to feed ourselves? So we, of course, get into these policy discussions and policy conversations around how we grow our food, how we distribute it, how we access it, and how we ultimately use it. And so that is basically what we do. So we engage in policy conversations and policy discussions that affect how Kenyans enjoy their right to food, which is enshrined in the Constitution, Article 43(1)(c).
What do they mean when they say every Kenyan has a right to food?
In fact, the Constitution has this other word that's called adequate. So every Kenyan has a right to adequate food. So what this means, of course, you can translate it differently, but there are different levels. They start depending on where you're coming from. So, for example, the 4.1 million Kenyans who are facing severe starvation, we are talking about, measures taken, serious measures, for example, to distribute food to the affected households, to the affected people. But at the same time, for people who can be able to work and afford their food and have the means to produce their food, we are talking about the government ensuring that they have the ability to produce and feed themselves in dignity and not interfere with that ability. So the right to food is the right to feed yourself. But of course, in different circumstances, then therefore the measures are supposed to be taken by the government to fulfill this, right, in the event that people are not able to feed themselves. So there are different levels. The first one is making sure, first of all, that everyone is free from hunger. And then the other one is that everyone has access to adequate food. And this is progressive. It's not something that, just comes like boom, people are able to feed themselves. It's progressive.
What does progressive mean? I have to eat every day, man.
Yeah, I mean, for example, when you're talking about the quality of food and the safety of food and all this, it's about policies, putting the policies in place, putting the infrastructure in place, putting the personnel in place. And, when this ICSR, which establishes this International Covenant on Economic and Social-Cultural Rights, was put in place and ratified by different countries, ours also ratified in 1992, is that, basically every country starts from a different level. So that's why we are talking about progressive realization. And if there's one thing in rights that is not accepted at all, is what we call regression. So when you regress, this is now where we understand that there are different levels, there are different challenges, and therefore that is why we emphasize on progressive realization.
Okay.
But again, the freedom from hunger is really completely non-negotiable. No one should be suffering from hunger.
The Constitution does not put in the word safe.
Yes, but it's in the words adequate.
So adequate is in terms of quantity, quality, and safety.
Adequate actually is more about, first of all, acceptability of the food, the safety of the food, the nutritional quality, the diversity of the food. Yeah.
Okay. So I have a twofold question, then, Emmanuel. So if this is a right of Kenyans to have adequate sources of food, yes, it must be adequate. And so then who is responsible for delivering this right? That's the first question. And then does that move to say that if your traditional sources of food, agriculture dependent on rain and, the seasonal, crop, etc., if that fails, does that also mean then that whomever is responsible for delivering this right then must find alternate sources of that same thing to make sure that these rights are delivered?
Yeah, first of all, rights are not given by anyone. If you get in a situation where you're waiting for someone to deliver your rights and or feed you, then we are first of all in a very bad situation. This is not what the right to food envisions. The right to food is the right to feed yourself in dignity. And, there are these kind of people who are uncomfortable eating in people's houses. Even when you're hungry, you say, please have a bite. You say, no, I'm full. There's this discomfort when you're being fed. Yeah, being fed is not something that is nice. It's not something that anyone is looking for. And when we are talking about the right to food, we are not saying the government should feed people. In fact, when you see governments that run big distribution systems to feed people, it doesn't work. Eventually, it doesn't work.
It's not sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. People should be able to feed themselves. And this is why now when conversations come like GMOs, then we ask ourselves, is it really in line with, or supporting the idea of people feeding themselves or not? It's actually against that. And there's no way the government can feed people. And Kenya does not have a stomach. It is you and I and someone else who has a stomach.
Okay.
So the idea of national food security and all this, sometimes is overemphasized to a point that we ignore local context. We ignore individual experiences and individual aspirations. And this is where we are supposed to actually start. So what are your aspirations? What are the aspirations of people living in Machakos? What are the aspirations of people living in Tana River? What do they need to be able to feed themselves? It's very different. So you cannot come with a blanket decision and say, you know what, you guys need this. And this is what I'm going to give you. And I'm not even going to ask you in the first place because I'm smart enough to know that all of you need this one solution. There's no one solution to ending food insecurity.
But I guess it starts from the one fact that we all know that everybody needs to eat.
Yes.
Okay? So if everybody needs to eat, then it's what they do to be able to have access to that adequate food that then also the government comes in with a supporting role. Like you said, so the government will not, it's not about government coming to give you a plate of food every day, at 3 meals a day, and we look at the balanced diet and blah, blah, blah. It is a government looking at policy level, at the supporting infrastructure. If it's policy, what policies do we have about food production, marketing, accessibility, affordability of the food, and the quality, of course, and the safety of the food. That's why the government then puts in a lot of money from our taxes into research institutions. We have all these research institutions on food production. We have all these big giant projects like irrigation schemes that are making sure that farmers then have access to this and aggregated food and also aggregation of markets. Does also then talk about looking at that policy level, what are we seeing as trends globally in terms of climate change, in terms of rainfall patterns, in terms of the seeds that we have, the foods that we are growing in various regions of the country, in terms of the productivity of our land, and then the government making decisions that help to make sure that the people still have access to that adequate food?
Now, you have asked a very good question, and I would ask, do these systems actually work? The Galana Kulalu, did it work? The big dams which in most of the villages is just a place for people to go and commit suicide and drown there. Because the small-scale farmers do not have the pipes to tap water from those dams. So they dig these big dams and just abandon them, and then they just become a hazard in the communities. So what we are saying is, we need to really, and I'm happy because, the current government came into power through this bottom-up philosophy, that we are starting from the ground. And starting from the ground is not just about distributing capital to the ground. It is also about starting policy conversations from the ground so that you are able to understand what do people actually need. Some of these big projects have failed simply because they do not address the needs of the producers. And they cause even more disparities, between the poor and the rich. Even in those rural areas, you will find a big water project where only a few rich farmers are able to tap the water from that. The rest are just there observing and watching, and maybe even just working in the farms of these other farmers, simply because they do not have the capital to tap into the resource that has been put there, which they are supposed to be able to access equitably. So even when you put all these big projects and all that. Now let me come to the question of GMOs. When the ban was lifted 2 days ago, it was not so that our farmers produce GMO maize. The ban was lifted so that we start getting GMO maize from the US, and within 2-3 weeks, you will see the GM maize coming here. And by the time our farmers start to grow those GM seeds they are talking about, which are not coming from here, when you talk about research institution, there is a big fallacy that these guys are making out there, that this research has been done by our local scientists. They put a Dr. Omondi and Dr. Kamau and Dr. Wafula and Dr. Nahumicha and they say, these are local scientists. They are the ones who have come up with GMOs. There is no local scientist in this country who has been involved in the development of these GM varieties. No one. I can tell you that for sure. I know some of the people who come, who are used to come and say, we have done local research. This thing is safe. It is good. It is resilient to climate change. There's nothing about that. BT maize, which we are talking about, has, the gene from Bacillus thuringiensis, which is a naturally occurring bacterium in the soil that produces toxin. So that gene that makes this bacterium to produce toxin is what has been introduced in the maize genome, so that this maize now can be able to grow with the ability of producing the toxin. And I'm speaking as a scientist myself. I have a BSc, by the way. So because now when we talk, sometimes we say, these noise makers who are not scientists, who are not experts. I'm not a rumor monger. I speak from facts, and I'm also a farmer myself. So I really have the grounding of what I'm talking about. So whatever quality that is supposed to benefit from the GMO maize, for this BT maize specifically, is purely about pest resistance. It has nothing to do with climate resilience. It has nothing to do with water use efficiency or nutrient use efficiency. It has nothing to do with early maturity. So when I see the president posting on his handle that now we are allowing early maturing variety, it is basically lying to the people.
Can we take a few steps back, please, Emmanuel?
Yes.
Because, having this conversation just the last 2 days,
yes,
and even before that, when we hear GMO, and immediately the backlash or the response is no, cancer-causing food, food that is not safe for human consumption, it's been put together somewhere in a lab. You're talking about genome splitting here. You're talking about removal of a particular bacterium and then
now,
the initial thought is that we are going to start ingesting food that is not safe for human consumption. What exactly are we talking about when we say genetically modified organisms? What exactly is that, and what dangers, if any, does it pose?
I think the explanation I've given of just taking the gene that is of a desired characteristic and inserting on the crop so that you have the gene, that is the whole basic conversation that we can have, for example, within 1 hour.
So
otherwise...
Essentially, you're talking about genetic modification.
The genetic modification, yes.
That's it.
Yes. So you modify these genes at molecular level. People have to understand that GMOs are not the same as hybrids. Hybrids are naturally, and this is why when you grow a hybrid maize, for example, that has two good qualities, when you want to grow again the next season, they disintegrate. So you have a maize plantation of tall, short, tall, short, tall, short, because you mixed tall and short to get average. So when you replant, then you have tall, short, because it is natural. They can be able to disintegrate. This is done in the laboratory at molecular level.
What do you call it, natural selection?
Natural selection,
Yes.
so now here we are influencing as humans. We say, I like this red bean, but the flowers are a bit delicate. When it rains, they are knocked off very easily. So I'm trying to mix with this black bean, and I do it through pollination naturally. And this is also what we do as humans. You see someone says, in my family we are very short, so I'm trying to look for a tall person so that at least, So this is natural breeding. It is very different from genetic modification.
Okay.
In terms of when you're talking about molecular level and all that, in terms of cost, for example, it costs about 15 billion Kenya shillings to just come up with one GM trait. 15 billion Kenya shillings. We do not have that kind of resource to do that. We do not have that. That is a quarter of our agriculture budget for only one trait. So what I'm saying is this is not about us. The lifting of the ban is not about Kenyan farmers. It is not about Kenyan consumers. This is about markets for American farmers who are growing corn in large scale with highly mechanized systems, computerized tractors. You can imagine all the technology that is there. Their technical efficiency of producing maize is much higher than ours, not because they're producing GMO, but because they have all these resources. They have mechanized their farming, and they are doing, large tracts of land. So their technical efficiency for production is quite low. So when they bring their maize here, we will not be able to compete with that.
So what you're alleging is that this is a market access move.
Yeah, it's not even an allegation. Eric, 2 weeks from now, you will see the maize coming into this market.
Okay.
So
Kenyan farmers,
yes.
Now with the lifting of the ban,
yes,
Kenyan farmers can also get access to these seeds and plant.
But for what? Why? They don't need them.
Why not?
We have the best maize varieties. Have you guys been to Eldoret, been to Kitale? We have the best.
Is our maize variety better than that one from America?
Yes. What I'm telling you is, what has been added to this BT maize is only the pest resistance.
Okay.
And not for all pests, for a few pests. I want you to get me clearly. It has nothing to do with productivity. It has nothing to do with high yielding. It is like taking our 614 maize hybrid from Kitale, then you take it to the laboratory, then open it up and get into the embryo and alter the genetic makeup of that so that then when it grows, it produces the toxin in the leaves so that it keeps away some pests, including, for example, the armyworms and the bollworms and a few other pests. Not all pests, in fact.
Okay.
So the other production aspects remain the same.
Okay. So why is our maize then not as competitive as that one from America?
Because basically, over other production issues, it's not about the seeds. It is because, for example, the farmers who are engaging in production do not have, for example, extension services and all this. And we should also ask ourselves, before we even compare ourselves with America, why is our maize production more expensive than our friends in Uganda? Let us start here. Because Uganda is not growing GM maize, but they are able to grow enough maize and supply to us.
Tanzania?
And Tanzania the same. So it is not about GMO. There is something we are doing wrong. If you compare Tanzania and Kenya, for example, it is a question of inputs, which I don't want to get into because it's now a question of how do you tax fertilizer, how do you tax pesticides. Okay. This is why Ugandan farmers are able to supply to Kenyans.
Is the availability of GM maize, this BT seed, in the country going to affect our own production?
Definitely.
Not in terms of competition, but in terms of is it likely to affect our own hybrid seeds?
Definitely, there is a high possibility of cross-pollination and contamination. Because you see, even globally, how GMOs are grown, you are supposed to leave a buffer of about 5 to 20 meters, depending on the country, around your farm. Imagine you are a small piece of land somewhere. You are told to leave 5 meters. What land will you remain with? In our context, our farms are our homes. And this is why we have a high rate of land subdivision. So you find that the average land size for a Kenyan farmer is about 2 acres now in high potential areas. So if you tell this person to leave 5 meters by 5 meters around their farm, therefore, so that if you're growing GMO and I'm not growing GMO, you don't contaminate mine with the, maize is pollinated through wind. Yeah? So this 5 meters is supposed to be the buffer. So we have not put in place those mechanisms where now we can even say that those who want to grow GMO, they can grow their GMO. Those who don't want, they can. And you see, Eric, let me ask you a simple question, and all of you. If someone gives you 2 pieces of ugali here, and one is labeled GMO, one is labeled not GMO, which one will you eat?
Either.
No, but when you have all the options, you have the choice.
Even when 2 pieces of ugali, one is GMO, the other is GMO.
But
both are free. I'll eat either. I don't have any. I will not be thinking, oh no, this one is GMO, this one is.
But Eric, the discussion about GMO and perhaps why it is referred to as emotive is, in answer to your question, it isn't cut and dry as you're asking it. You mentioned GMO, you evoke very many other things just by mentioning it.
Yeah.
Now, if you are talking about pollination that is caused or is brought about by wind, and then you're talking about subsistence farmers and farmers in this country, comprising of almost 75 to 78% of the population of this particular country. And then now you look at the business mechanics of GMO, those who own it and how they go about their business.
Yeah.
And if you look at the history in other countries where this wind sends pollen of GMO to another farm. When they do the examination and they find that their GMO has crossed over to your seed and you didn't have their seed, you, because of the patent rights, you're certainly in some legal battle that you didn't ask for. What am I saying? I'm saying the discussion about what those who own the patents to these seeds and how it is they've gone about their business and how it is they're a big challenge to these small-scale farmers, in my mind, is what would worry me the most.
Is it a fact, though? Is it a fact
it is a fact.
We have seen that the developers and the owners of the GMO patent would go to another farmer and say, because the cross-pollination has happened. In which country has this happened?
In the US it has happened.
Now, you see, Eric, even before they come to ask you, first of all, they have interfered with your maize seed, assuming you do not want to touch GMOs. And we are running away from the fact you have not answered my question correctly. But what I'm saying is, for example, now, the rich people in this country, in the morning for breakfast, they are not eating bread. They are not eating these wheat products. What are they eating? They are going for nduma, they are going for ngwashe, they are going for groundnuts, they are going for things that are considered healthy. Even in the US, rich people don't go to the supermarkets looking for GMO products. They go looking for non-GMO products that are labeled non-GMO, that are labeled organic. I want to ask you also another question. The parliament serves lunch. I've been there, I've enjoyed the lunch one time. Do you think that the parliament will start serving GMO ugali?
I don't know. Why not?
No.
I mean, Emmanuel, you are.
I wouldn't know.
You are posing a question here, and I don't know why you're posing this question.
Because the question
you're
I'm
asking me whether I would pick GMO or non-GMO, and I've told you I'd pick either.
The question I'm coming to, when you talk about rights, people should have the right to choose what they eat. Now, the way GMOs are regulated globally, there is this requirement for labeling. If you produce or process a GMO product, and you put it in the market, you have to label, you have to declare that this is GMO maize. Do we have the structures in this country to label GMO maize? And with the issues we are talking about of possibility of cross-contamination and all that, and there is even a clear reason why, globally, even in the US, GMO foods are labeled as GMO foods.
Okay, you tell us. Are you saying that we don't have those regulations in place?
We have the regulations. For
labeling GMO.
For labeling, I have looked at all the regulations. We have the National Biosafety Act. We have the labeling regulations, the marketing regulations, and all that. You are supposed to declare.
Okay.
Around, basically around some years back, I think around 5-6 years ago, we had this issue with Aromat, which, they were saying Aromat without Aromat is stupid. And then that was their campaign and all that. Then later on, it was discovered, I think it was a Unilever product, it was discovered that it contained more than 1% GM content. According to our laws, you are supposed to declare.
And that way it was removed from the shelves.
It was removed from the shelves. But remember,
so we've seen it being implemented before.
But remember, no, this was not by the National Biosafety Authority. This was done by some civil society organizations who picked it up. They did the test with the KEBS and everyone, and then they had to go to court to get it removed from the shelf. Meaning that the National Biosafety Authority, who I know where their offices are, they don't even have the capacities, my friend. They don't even have the capacities to monitor how GMOs are planted, grown, distributed, marketed in the market. They do not have that capacity.
Let's take a break. So you tell us, are you saying that because you think National Biosafety Authority does not have the capacity, then we should not lift the ban on GMO because we don't think they're going to enforce the labeling of GMO products?
Because we can't control them.
28 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, and Emmanuel Atamba is a coordinator for Route to Food and Route to Food Initiative. We're talking about the impact of lifting the ban on GMOs in the country. 27 to 9. Time for us also to remind you about 4G coverage across the country by Airtel. So because of what Airtel has been doing, it's now easy and smart to send Airtel to Airtel money. It's free. Just simply dial *334# to get started. We're asking you today, how has Airtel Money changed your life? We've got 2K airtime to be won through our social media handles on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Go and post your comment. Our man, Lioto, is going to pick a winner with the best answer, and we'll reward them with 2,000 shillings worth of airtime. Airtel to Airtel, free. Send money, 27 to 9.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
He's promiscuous or he's polygamous. We need to get over ourselves.
So I should always know the man that marries me, I know there'll be other women.
Yes.
The relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of the relationships you will have with other people.
Things that we never talk about. 3 things. Stop, breathe, and relax.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune in to Adults in the Room
every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Ero, ni emergency bwana. Wazee wamekataa dowry. We need more cows, please.
Kata, nata video call.
Ngoja, mko na paka network huko.
Kwani unaishi msitu gani kijana? Airtel 4G my friend, ni kama oxygen. Iko kila mahali. Hiyo ng'ombe na mororo yake ni 70,000. Sort me bwana.
Sasa ni kusort aje?
Na kauri shells. Nasi na Airtel Money ni free. Nimereceive. Kata simu nataka live stream the game.
Experience our expanded 4G network coverage and send money for free on Airtel to Airtel. Dial *334#. Make Chaguo smarter on voice, data, and now on Airtel Money.
16 degrees and cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 27. We'll see highs of 25 in a sunny Nakuru this morning at 16, and it's sunny at 17 in Nyeri, highs of 26 and highs of 24 in a sunny Eldoret at 15. Light rain in Mombasa in some parts at 24, highs of 29 and lows of 23. And it's also a wet morning in Malindi at 26. It'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 24. It's raining in some parts of Kisumu at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 19, while we'll see sunny conditions through Kakamega at 22, highs of 27 and lows of 14. It's 20 and sunny in Kampala, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 29 in a partly sunny Dar es Salaam this morning at 25. 17 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Lagos at 25. It's 24 and sunny in Kinshasa. It'll go to highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, so we're looking at a very difficult morning coming off of the Thika Superhighway. Folks are asked to use the service lanes. No longer towards Siokimau. We know also that part of that road was shut off and encouraging people to use the overpass. However, not everybody got the memo. And so everybody gets stuck at some point. So we see that happening. We've also seen a couple of accidents this morning that are causing some traffic stress right around Westlands. So be careful of that if you're headed in that direction. All right, so what else are we looking at? It's also slow coming onto the Southern Bypass this morning. Coming off that Likoni interchange, Langata Road packed. Raila Odinga way through to Ngong Road is moving very slowly. Bumper-to-bumper action as well on Landys Road heading into the CBD. It's heavy on Juja Road in and outbound traffic on Kiambu Road and Limuru Road as well. Still in traffic hour for a while. Let's take a look at what it's looking at where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, the
done right.
Continues in the Situation Room on Spice FM, KTN Home and online with Emmanuel Atamba, coordinator, Route to Food, talking about the impact of lifting the ban on GMOs. As you've clearly heard, Emmanuel is opposed to the lifting of this ban on GMOs. One of the main thrusts of your argument against this is you're saying this is basically just granting access to big farmers in America, for example, into the Kenyan market. They come in here, they compete with a more expensively produced maize, then they crowd out the local farmer from the market, so the local farmer has no incentive to grow food because they have no market, so it basically kills our local farmer. But Emmanuel, are there no laws that control importation of food stuff into the country? Even without the ban on GMO, why aren't we getting other non-GMO maize into the Kenyan market? It's because there are laws restricting it.
Yeah, I think the way maize is a very political crop, and for quite some time now, Kenya has been producing an average of 40 million to 45 million bags. Normally, our deficit ends up being around 10 million to 15 million bags every year. This is the deficit we are talking about. It's not like we are not producing any maize. We are producing maize, but there is a deficit. And the beauty of it is that the majority of the maize we consume, the ugali we consume, goes back to our people in the villages, to our uncles, to our mothers, to our brothers, to our sisters. So it is building our own economy here. Now, the little that we do not manage to produce, like the 10 to 15 million bags, we buy it from our friends in Uganda and Tanzania, which is non-GMO. No one has ever had a problem with that. What you're seeing now, there was a deficit, this year, sometimes like even from the 3 months back, even with the UNGA subsidy and all this, and the measures to try to help millers to access maize. And some of these things are extremely exaggerated, if you ask me. There was a time even when, the government was announcing that there's no maize in the country, and you would see even farmers protesting and saying, we have a lot of maize here. What do you guys mean? So the management of maize has been one of the undoings of the previous regimes. And I think President Ruto is stepping in right into it by this lifting of this ban. Importing from others is not a problem. But, you have to make sure that even those you are importing from, do not eventually wipe out the little that you are able to produce here. Because farmers depend on this for livelihood. This is where farmers get their money to buy, other things and to pay school fees and all this. When you open it up and say it is about prices, you want to give people cheap unga. Definitely, the maize from the US will be cheaper than the maize from here. That one I can guarantee you. And this is not because it is GMO. It is simply because of the other aspects of subsidized agriculture in the US, where farmers are subsidized, extremely subsidized. Access to mechanization, access to information extension services. It is different here. So if we build our farmers' capacity to produce here, I can assure you we will not even need to import any maize from anyone.
So it's not a GMO. Are we saying then, sorry, Emmanuel, that it is not a GMO issue?
It is not.
It's not a GMO issue. And if we were really going to look at, because we started off this conversation with this whole thing of the right to food. So are we saying that if we really wanted to fix the problem is not to bring in this other food from outside the country, but that there are internal mechanisms that can be used to fix the issue?
Definitely.
They're not immediate though. There's an immediate problem today for food.
You see, what we are doing is basically like, when you have a fly on your hand and then you take the hammer and knock off the fly, who is going to get injured more? It's yourself.
Yeah.
This is what we are doing. We are taking a very radical measure to address a very simple supply issue. There's definitely, like now, this is, let me confirm, this is October. In the next 2 months, there will be a lot of maize harvested in the North Rift and in the Western region. What is the rush for? What is the rush for? The government has only been in place 2 weeks. Why don't we had
the rush is, like you said, 4.5 million Kenyans who need food today. They need to have access to adequate food today.
So they need GMO food?
Well, they just need food.
But something.
It hasn't. The lifting of the ban on GMO has not said that this is what we are going to do. We are going to feed the hungry Kenyans with GMO. No, it just says we are lifting that as we progress. Now, if one of the sources of the maize, the relief maize, is going to be GMO maize, then it's also allowed into the country. However, again, going back into, if we are talking about just meeting a deficit of 10 million bags or 15, right? And then there are laws in place that restrict importation of maize into the country. Lifting the ban on GMO does not increase this 10 million deficit to 20 million. It doesn't lift the ban on importation of maize. It doesn't.
The discussion around importation,
I feel like we're mixing the two issues.
We are, Eric, but the importation of maize, the first scandal this country ever had at a national level was about maize. And it involved somebody called Paul Gay. Yes. We've had other maize scandals before. And this very law that we're saying was abrogated. But it wasn't the only thing that happened. We had a situation where the government agencies that are charged with ensuring that we have sufficient food supply had issues of storage. We had an issue of more maize that was needed coming in and again depressing these very prices that we're talking about. I mean, the issues around maize, when you say they're emotive, it's for good reason.
Yeah.
And because of that history, when you say GMO, what comes to my memory are all the negative things that have happened around maize. That GMO maize is a good food product, is not in doubt. It's not the issue.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's an issue. It is a good food product. The issues about those who own these seeds, that would have been my issue, but that's not what we're discussing here.
Yeah, the question of control is and I'm not. That's why I've intentionally not gone into this conversation of GMOs cause cancer and all these, extremist positions on GMOs. Okay, but let me remind you, because this phone that I have here is a technology. The phones that we are using are technologies. GMO is a technology; it's not science. GMO is a technology that is relatively quite new, actually. The first GM crop was harvested in 1996. That is less than 30 years ago. So GMO is not even 40 years old. It's not even 50 years old. There is no one who has eaten GMOs full cycle, and then we have observed and said, these people have eaten GMO full cycle. And this is why people have doubts. The absence of evidence that it is unsafe does not mean that that is now evidence that it is safe. Now, when someone serves you food and you look at this food and you suspect it, what happens later on? You have stomach problems. If you eat food that you suspect, it is not even that the food has something bad in it, but you just don't want it. Psychologically, it is not good for you because you are eating food, yes, I've been told it is safe, but I don't feel like I like it. This is where Kenyans are being placed. That the people who are suffering from hunger, for example, one of the counties, Tana River, the people in Tana River were not asked whether you guys want to get GMO maize or not. And the fact that we did not ask them is an insult to them. When we say that there are 4.5 million Kenyans who need food aid, I agree with you. But they need food that is similar to the food that the President Ruto is eating in State House. They need food that is similar to what their members of parliament are eating, not second-hand, not second-level food, not second-grade food, not food that is doubted.
Are you saying GMO is second-hand, second-grade, and all those
not
things?
Food that is second-guessed, not food that has been second-guessed before.
By whom?
By everyone.
No, that's not true. It hasn't been second-guessed. Look, people don't understand the technology of gene manipulation. Many people think the big problem is that you're going against Mother Nature. Yeah. And that's what they're afraid of. What will happen if you go against Mother Nature? The conversation around it and those who spearhead it like yourself, I would dare say, haven't taken the time to explain these things so that it's understood. Look at the issue we had with the vaccines just the other day here. Just look at it. Over time, the fears were overcome and people got vaccinated. In fact, our vaccination program was actually very good. But with GMO, it looks like every time GMO is mentioned, a whole debate with two strongly opposing sides comes into being, and all we're saying, for, against. Instead of saying, okay, folks, why don't we just look at this thing rationally, okay? Yeah. Is there anything wrong with GMO? Everything that we have, even the science, there is nothing wrong with GMO. Harmful.
How do we know that?
Well, how do you know it's harmful then? Let me ask the question.
How do we know it's not harmful?
You see,
because 30 years is not enough.
No. It is adequate for you to make a decision that 30 years into this experiment, we have not seen harm.
Yeah. Can I ask a question a different way, Emmanuel? The issue of, I'm still going back to where we started this conversation about the right to food, right? There are factors that have maybe trampled on these rights, whether they're economic factors, whether they're environmental factors, one of them being drought in the country today. We're not saying maybe it will be. We are saying that today there are 4 million Kenyans on the brink of starvation, many actually in the throes of starvation, because there's no food available. There have been failed rains, etc., etc. That cannot be doubted. Now, in terms of looking for a solution, you who does deal in the aspects of food and its provision and its sustainability, I fear to say this, but regardless of the source, regardless of the geopolitics that could be playing, is it a viable option for the country to bring in this food to feed this population that is currently suffering?
Yeah.
Is it a viable option for now, the geopolitics and the economic kidnapping aside? Is that possible?
It is not.
Okay.
And this is why I'll say it. In fact, it is very immoral for the government to use the excuse of Kenyans who are suffering from hunger and starvation, not for reasons of their own. Not for reasons of their own. And we have not just started Kenya today. Kenya is 60 years old. It is not like today is when now we cannot. The droughts have been there. We have been having cycles of drought, and we have been talking about the drought and saying we need to address the structural issues. Some of these structural issues, for example, the reason why mostly when you have droughts and all this, it's mostly pastoral communities that are affected. It is because of economic inclusion issues. It is because of market issues for their products, what they are able to produce, which is animal products, animal meat and all this. How much do they sell those cows? Are they able to come back to Kangemi and get the food? Today, if I live in Thika Road and I realize that in the shops in Thika Road, I don't find tomatoes, for example, I have the privilege, I can drive to Wayakiwe and get the same tomatoes. And we're talking about economic imbalance. Food moves where access is. And the issue, that's why I said, the fact that we have 4.5 million Kenyans waiting for the president to flag off a lorry of maize so that it can get to them.
It's not enough.
It's problematic in the first place. The government is supposed to be ashamed in the first place.
True.
Now, going to an extent of saying, you know what? We have 4.5 million Kenyans who are dying of hunger. We don't even know their names. We don't even know their faces. We are sitting here in State House and flagging off these lorries. And we think the lorries we have flagged off are not enough. So can we also just bring GMO maize to these guys? It is borderline to, this is.
Do I hear you to be asking the question, could we not have gotten this maize from Uganda or Tanzania?
Not even growing from Uganda or Tanzania.
No, gotten it, because
Yes.
some of these countries have an abundance of maize.
Even our season with Malawi, for example, is opposite. And all this. We need to look at...
Explain this. What do you mean
excuse.
our seasons are opposite Malawi? Expound on what you're saying. What do you mean?
No. For example, sometimes when our maize is still in the farm, they are harvesting.
Yes.
And these are the advantages that you take when you're within a region.
And that's why we have Ombaso.
Yes.
That's
When you're within, so you cannot say because we have a 3 weeks. I think it's more or less like a 3 weeks gap to our next major harvest season. Yes. And you see, when the president flagged off fertilizers, we were quiet. We said, okay, if you want to incentivize production, then this can be a short-term measure. But of course, again, you need to remove farmers from the idea that we were waiting for fertilizer from the government. We want to have production systems that are controlled by the people. Producers have control of their inputs. They have control of their seeds. So going to the extent of saying, this is just an excuse. That's why I'm saying it is just an excuse to allow GMOs. If it was about meeting the demand, why are they saying that now it is open cultivation is allowed? Why is the lifting of the ban indefinite? Why doesn't it say that, we are lifting for one month or 2 months to allow importation of this maize to meet the deficit?
We are the ones who are actually just adding all these things into it. There's a coincidence. It coincides the fact that there are 4.5 million Kenyans who are starving. It coincides with the need to feed these people.
Actually,
it coincides with, even before, America saying we'd like to donate to your people, but the food that we have is banned in your country. It coincides with all these things, but also it coincides, Emmanuel, with the progress that Kenya has been making towards this lifting of the ban on GMO.
I know.
It coincides with the fact that we signed the Cartagena Protocol. It coincides with the fact that we allowed GMO cassava to be researched, GMO cassava to be open for open planting. It coincides with the fact that we've been heading towards this point.
Yes. Now, and this
of lifting the ban on GMO.
And there was a task force that was put in place in 2012 by the late President Kibaki, led by Professor Thairu, who I went and met, by the way, and I talked to him and asked him, this task force, what were you guys looking at? About 3-4 years ago. And he said that what the task force recommended is that keep the ban in place, build the institutions that are needed to manage GMOs. GMOs are not something that you just let out loose in the environment and then, people just are allowed to deal and manage with it. There is very stringent measures to control. And we are not saying it coincides. Look at the statements that came from the cabinet. That's why I'm saying it is very worrying that we have this kind of statements riding on the fact that we have people in our country, our fellow countrymen and women and children who are hungry, and then we are saying, okay, because of this, now we are lifting this. And I can tell you, without fear of contradiction, that this ban is going to be Ruto's, lifting of the ban is going to be President Ruto's worst nightmare.
What's going to happen?
It is going to be his worst legacy. And you see why I'm saying that? GMOs have failed even in other countries. Eventually, they fail.
What do you mean failed?
They fail because they overpromise. You see the things they're telling you about early maturing, high yielding. We have GMO cotton being grown in this country from December 2019 when the cabinet allowed. From December 2019, have you heard the stories that are coming from farmers? Even some of them published by the Standard ISO. Farmers are already complaining. They're saying, these seeds are expensive, they are delaying, and the GMO seeds that have been distributing have been highly subsidized by the government. Over 60% subsidized the cost of the seeds. Because they are unsustainable. Even the GMO seeds, when they come for maize, they will be subsidized. Why are you subsidizing? If it is viable, if it is magnificent technology, why are you subsidizing? Why?
So what's likely to happen?
What's likely to happen is that
Ruto's
farmers are going
nightmare.
to realize, and Kenyans are going to realize, this is a false promise. And Kenyans are going to be unhappy that they have been taken on a ride that takes them nowhere. Because 3-4 years down the line, we will still be talking about the issues that we are talking about if we do not address the structural issues. The issues affecting the 4.5 million Kenyans are issues that are structural, issues that are about markets, issues about economic access, issues about economic empowerment, and issues about access to infrastructure, including communication infrastructure in some of these areas. Today, there are people in Nairobi who order their lunch through their phones. There are areas, some of these areas that are food insecurity problem do not even have reception. So do we think that giving them GMO maize solves the problem? It does not.
But this is not the only thing that the government is doing, is it? Is the government also working on those other structural issues?
It is not. And how we know it is not is that it's going for these low-hanging, easy targets to say, okay, we have done something. But I can tell you...
Is it going to be better if the government still allows GMOs into the country and then still works double hard on these other structural issues?
It's not going to be better.
On production, on market access, on all these other things.
It's not going to be better.
The dominant conversation here is technical. However, there's a simple trade matter here that we must also talk about. Because that ban automatically prevented U.S. firms that deal with GMOs to import to Kenya. So, did I hear you to be saying that what the lifting of the ban then does, that it opens that door?
Yes. And our friends in Uganda and Tanzania are not going to be able to compete with U.S. farmers who are, farming using computer-driven tractors. And I can tell you, I do not know how we are going to sing the East African anthem together again in the next public event, because it means nothing if the first thing we want to do is to actually block markets from this by introducing unhealthy competition. That is, our neighbors are not going to be able to meet. So, and you will hear a response, I think, from some of these countries. You will hear a response in the days to come. Because the question is, what about sovereignty? Why can't we make sure that we are sovereign as a people? What is so big that the U.S. has that Kenya does not have? If it is manpower, we have manpower. If it is ideas, we have ideas. If it is soils to produce, we have soils. If it is rain, it rains there, it rains here. Why are we acting as a very inferior species?
You're mixing two issues again, Emmanuel. You're mixing two issues. You are saying that lifting the ban on GMO is equal to lifting any other restrictions on importation of goods from other countries. Those are not the same.
No, I'm saying...
Just because you've lifted the ban on GMO does not mean that now Americans have free access to Kenya.
For the maize market, yes, they have. Take that to the ban. They have. For the maize market...
Actually, they do. In fact, the U.S. Trade Representative Office has stated more or less the same thing that you're saying. This lifting has now opened up a window that they didn't previously have.
Yeah, but there are quotas and there are restrictions in the country, with the EAC tariff, with everything else. It's not that now they can come in and bring 60 million kilograms or tons of maize There are restrictions to how much maize can be imported into the country.
You know, Eric, let me ask you, who is the biggest world producer of maize? It's the U.S. And the U.S. has the highest technical efficiency for maize production.
Has the restriction on importation quota for maize been lifted?
The restriction for importation of GMO maize has been lifted. Why?
Okay. Has the restriction on the maize quota importation been lifted?
No, those ones are simpler issues to deal with. Because those ones are issues where people look at the Excels and say, okay, how much do we have? How much do we need? And then they say, allow these tons. Now, the biggest barrier for the entry of the U.S. maize into the Kenyan market has always been the GMO ban. And that's why I'm saying, when you open it up, you see markets are markets. You know, when you start selling something here, even your enemy can come and buy from you, and you will not stop them. If you open a shop, and your long-term enemy comes to the shop to buy sugar, will you chase them away saying, you are my enemy, don't buy, you cannot buy from my shop? No. Markets, when you open markets, you open markets. So that's why I'm saying this is a very big mess that is going to affect not only even the farmers that from other countries that import from us, but let me go to a bit of solutions as we finish.
Conclusion. By the way, we've already reached the 10 seconds to go, so we just have to end it there. We'll continue this conversation as days go by, because we've come to the top of the hour. But thank you very much, Emmanuel, for coming. Emmanuel Atamba is from Root to Food. He's the coordinator of this Root to Food program. He's been here talking about the GMOs. We must have you back here.
Thank you.
Asante sana. Keep it here for more conversations, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The Kenya National Examinations Council will administer the 2022 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education and Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education national examinations between November and December this year. Rehearsals for KCPE as well as the Kenya Primary Education Assessment KPSEA will be conducted on November 25th, 2022, with exam officials beginning on November 28th and ending on November 30th. KCSE, on the other hand, will be rehearsed on November 18th and thereafter start for between November 21st and December 23rd. The council will also conduct rehearsals for Diploma in Early Childhood Teacher Education on November 18th and thereafter administer the exams on November 21st to November 25th. The Teacher Service Commission has since directed sub-county directors to identify, nominate and vet center managers, supervisors and invigilators who will spearhead the exercise and deploy them by October 18th. Now, officials of the Kenya Civil Servants Union have demanded an apology from Maragua Member of Parliament for what they termed as disrespect she showed local administrators. The officials castigated the MP Mary Waithera for intimidating and embarrassing national government administrators led by Murang'a County Commissioner Karuku Ngumo during a public event led by the National General Secretary Tom Odege. The officials alleged the MP showed disrespect to the civil servants during a very important official event of commissioning law courts in Kenol, Murang'a South. Odege said politicians should respect the work being done by civil servants and should avoid inciting members of the public against officers entrusted to maintain security, as well as carry out other responsibilities which directly touch the general public. And the National Police Service continues to embrace technology in enhancing efficiency and ease of access to police services. According to National Police Service, the police electronic crash system piloted between 2019 and 2021 recorded a total of 17,000 locations of accidents within Nairobi County. The eCrash, a project developed in partnership with the Development Impact Evaluation Department at the World Bank, the European Union and funded by the African Development Bank, is a digital platform that registers real-time accident data including location, time, cause and severity of the crash. And the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Richard Ngatia has intervened to save 43 notorious bars earmarked for closure over noise pollution. Ngatia said the convened meeting of the Nairobi County Liquor Licensing Board, which agreed to dialogue with the bar operators a day after announcing that it had commenced their license revocation process. It said the KNCCI is committed to protecting businesses, hence the need to embrace dialogue so as to find a lasting solution. The licensing board has listed 43 bars, some of which were raided by police and arrests made of a rampant violation of various regulations, including selling shisha, which is banned in Kenya, noise pollution, and operating in residential areas spread across the city. And Kenya is targeting the leather industry to create jobs and expand the manufacturing base. The country exports 90% of its leather in raw form or wet blue, earning the country 10 billion shillings annually. Planning Principal Secretary Saitoti Torome has said the sector has the capacity to generate 100 billion shillings annually while creating 50,000 jobs. The government is banking on the upcoming leather city in Machakos County to help boost the struggling sector. Though Kenya is the fifth largest cattle producer in Africa after Ethiopia, Chad, Sudan and Tanzania, its leather trade remains low due to lack of value addition. Experts say the Kenyan leather industry is valued at about 50 billion shillings annually. And the East African community is setting up a diaspora desk that will focus on facilitating East Africans living in the diaspora to invest and trade in the region. EHG Secretary General Dr. Peter Mathuki has revealed that the Secretariat is also currently developing a diaspora engagement strategy, providing a framework for interacting with the diaspora community. The Secretary General was speaking during the East African 17th Annual Trade and Investment Conference organized by the East Africa Chamber of Commerce in Irving, Texas, USA. And President Joe Biden has said that the U.S. plans to impose further costs this week on Iran for assaulting protesters demonstrating against the government for the death of a young woman held in custody by the country's morality police for failing to properly cover her hair with a hijab. Biden did not elaborate on what actions the United States will take against the Tehran government. This is Newswire. Dennis Asseto, good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
Right, after 9 o'clock, and we're looking at traffic still in certain parts of the city. It's heavy on Mombasa Road, heading out towards Murang'a Road, rather on the thicker superhighway, heading out towards Murang'a Road. That looks still quite busy now. Kiambu Road, a little bit here and there, but that looks like it will be sorted out in a bit. Limuru Road, also, we have some traffic coming into the city as well as still coming in from Gigiri. So we'll keep an eye on that for now. Coming off of Mombasa Road, like we saw earlier, inbound traffic seems to be all right till you get to Maradaima, but we're looking at outbound traffic that's really heavy around Mlolongo going from Syokimau. All right, so maybe half hour or so, we see what it looks like then. The weather's not looking too promising and remaining dry, so please be careful. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there and let's try to keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It is
the
7 minutes
only
after
way
9.
to start
This
your
is
day.
Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues on Spice FM. The CS nominee for Information and ICT was once on this show and he said, we have become a Fuliza country. Fuliza is a brand. It means a lot of things, especially when you're talking about simple overdraft facilities, right? We're going to be discussing Fuliza now because Fuliza reviewed their charges. We want to understand how that happened and why it matters with the review of the Fuliza charges. Eric Muriuki Ngari, the Group Director for Digital Business at NCBA Bank, is here with us. Before we say hello to him, let CT give him the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverb is from the country of Libya. What is collected by an ant in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
What is collected by an ant in a year is carried away once by a camel's foot.
And bear this in mind, these are human ears, as in Y-E-A-R-S, not E-A-R-S. Human ears, not ant ears. Do we really know how to count years according to the calendar of the ant?
How long do ants live?
Do we know that?
How am I supposed to know that?
The lifespan of an insect is... Okay, never mind. But it struck me that, what could be the world to you is a fleeting moment to somebody else.
Precisely.
Yeah.
What could be? Well, yes. What is
your? You could be in your whole thing, your whole business, and somebody just whizzes by, and it's like, okay, do you not notice my effort and my stress and my struggle? And that's 1 minute in somebody else's existence.
Precisely. I mean, it's a lifetime of work.
Yeah.
And by the way, this camel didn't seek to extinguish the efforts of
No,
it was just going about his business.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
It's the big boys. Eric, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
This is going to be fun.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
Right.
It's the second time we've had two Erics in the room. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a good conversation. Eh?
It is. When we refer to Eric, we'll be referring to you. Okay.
Not him.
If we refer to him, you'll hear saying Nani.
All right, allow me maybe to start with a very small correction. Eric Muriuki Njagi, yes,
okay.
That is correct. But a very interesting start about your camel proverb.
Yes.
And I was just listening to the banter, you've continued with it, and the camel and the ant both play two very different roles.
Yes.
And in as much as the camel is just going on about its way,
yes,
it has a very clear and important role it is playing when picking up the efforts of the ant.
Yes.
And being able to take them even further than the ant would have taken. And let's appreciate whatever the ant is putting together is what, for those who follow biology, that's how pollination and dissemination of, do I say species?
And migration.
And migration.
Yes.
And certainly the camel will travel a much further distance than the ant. So there's a very important
let's say
place.
it'll travel faster.
Faster
Yes.
and further.
Yes, and further.
Yes. A lot of wisdom in Africa.
Interesting perspective there, Eric. Very good one. Now let's talk about Fuliza and NCBA. We deal with Fuliza with Safaricom. Where do you come in?
I think the NCBA story is a very good story to tell. And I've been quite proud to have been part of that story for about 15 years. Mshwari is a precursor to Fuliza. M-Pesa is a precursor to Mshwari. And right from the beginning, right from the first day of M-Pesa, NCBA was involved in not just supporting, but actually participating in the co-creation of digital financial services in Kenya. Our contribution, if I take the story back from M-Pesa, was to define and design the regulatory model that permitted the launch of M-Pesa. If you recall, at the beginning of M-Pesa, there was a lot of pushback, particularly from the banking industry. But we were able to see the opportunity that these kinds of innovation portends. There wasn't a regulatory framework at the time, and so any regulation around financial services could only be anchored off a bank. So we did step up and worked with M-Pesa, Safaricom, worked with the Central Bank of Kenya to develop a framework upon which mobile financial services was then launched. I've been in the industry now 15 years, this particular digital financial services space, and everywhere we have gone to, the regulatory model we developed back in 2007 is what every other jurisdiction has continued to copy and add their own specific nuances around. That was at the launch of M-Pesa. So NCBA was then the host for all M-Pesa deposits under the trust account framework. Coming forward about 5 years later, the greatest call to Safaricom contact center was customers asking Safaricom to pay them interest. Now, appreciate more, M-Pesa is a payment service. It's not a deposit-taking service. But customers had started leaving money behind or leaving balances staying over in their mobile money wallets. I think if you recall the early days of M-Pesa, you would walk into a cash agent, give them cash, they give you e-value, and immediately you send money to somebody. So initially it started, those balances were very transient. But as the utility of mobile money for both P2P when you're sending money to someone, and also, and particularly when Lipa na M-Pesa was launched, where you're now retaining balances so that you use them to pay at merchant locations, customers started retaining and even accumulating balances on their mobile money wallets. And in one form or the other, that was evidence of savings. But the regulatory model, again, did not provide for M-Pesa to hold deposits and pay interest. So that was a problem statement, again, that they came to us with. And we birthed M-Shwari, which is being a deposit-taking service. This is actually an NCBA bank product. We also were fortunate, maybe that's a story for another day, we actually considered that there is an opportunity to introduce digital credit. And we have to be very proud as Kenyans to be able to say we are not just the first to create mobile money, but we were also the first to create a lending model that uses alternative data to make a credit decision. So we launched M-Shwari in 2012, November. I like to tell this story in the sense, at that time, I think the large companies in terms of number of users, if you take Facebook at the time, it had taken them about 10 months to hit 1 million customers. It took us 41 days to hit 1 million customers on M-Shwari. That was in 2012. We have since grown M-Shwari deposits, because remember it was faster savings instrument.
Yeah.
Since grown those deposits to about 35, 36 billion Kenya shillings, paying interest above what a typical bank would, and will pay interest even for 1 shilling. The credit side of M-Shwari also took off, and I spent quite a bit of time visiting neighborhoods like Kibera and Mathare, just trying to understand how informal credit works. Interestingly, at the time, I'd also just completed my MBA at Strathmore, and my thesis actually was on the use of alternative data for credit scoring. And just trying to understand how informal credit works with the Shylocks who give cash credit for about 10% interest per day. Understanding credit at the shopkeeper level, where you're borrowing your unga and your bread to pay at the end of the week and so on. Just understanding how those conversations happen, and not just the access to credit, but also how what in banking we call it credit life cycle, how customers then are managed when that debt needs to be repaid. And there's a lot of inefficiency, very high cost, and actually something that's never spoken about is just the indignity of knowing Apo Koploti, you're the guy who is not able to pay up or is being chased. And that's really what M-Shwari sought, to give dignity to households, particularly households that have informal income and or wage earners. Also, very importantly, to play the role of smoothing of cash flows. And we fail to appreciate how important that job is, because each one of us at some moments, you have a bit of surplus and you're able to conveniently and cost-effectively save. M-Shwari, I think, at the time and probably to date, is the only savings service where there is no cost to moving money into your savings account and moving money out of your savings account, or even retaining balances. And then, of course, to be able to access credit at any time with dignity. That was in 2012. We grew M-Shwari. Today we have about 31 million registered M-Shwari users. We've also exported this to Tanzania in 2014, to Uganda and Rwanda in 2016, to Ivory Coast in 2018. And I think it's also a very important story that we shouldn't just be an export economy of agricultural product. If you look at our top FX earners, save for diaspora remittances, everything else is produce.
Yep.
And I think from where I see it, when you look at financial services in Africa, we need to begin regarding financial services, and particularly digital financial services, as an export into Africa. And we've led the way amongst other banks also that have begun expanding beyond Kenya. I think we are the only Kenyan bank that can say we have business in Francophone West Africa, and continuing to expand. Coming forward, the Fuliza story then came in 2019, and Fuliza actually was an idea that we had begun putting together in 2015 with our partner Safaricom. But at the time, they were also doing the migration of their platform from Germany to Kenya, stabilizing that. So it took a bit of time before we were able to take it to market. So we began this project in 2018, took it to market, I think, in January 2019. And Fuliza actually addressed or was able to execute digital credit better than M-Shwari, with one very important difference. With M-Shwari, when you need credit, you first go to M-Shwari to draw down the credit against your credit limit.
Yeah.
With Fuliza, however, is whilst you're within the payment transaction, the payment service then notifies you that you may have insufficient funds in your M-Pesa wallet, but then notifies you what your credit limit on Fuliza is. So in that way, it was far more convenient than M-Shwari from a customer journey perspective. It's important to also discuss the intentions we had when introducing Fuliza was not to replace M-Shwari, and the two products actually have continued to grow side by side. If you think about it, M-Shwari heralded short-term credit. It's a 30-day loan. Fuliza came in to actually address what I'll call ad hoc convenience credit, whilst M-Shwari is more of planned credit. I need X amount that I will pay back in 30 days. And actually, M-Shwari gives you 30 days and a rollover option for another 30 days. Your M-Shwari limit is typically larger than your Fuliza limit. The job we're seeking to do at the time, or to serve customers with, is particularly when Lipa na M-Pesa also was beginning to grow in significance. We observed that almost 50% to 56% of M-Pesa transaction attempts were not being completed due to insufficient funds. And those customers will then come to repeat the same transaction 2 to 4 days later. So what we're trying to solve is, okay, if you actually would have the funds 2 to 4 days later, why don't we allow you to complete the transaction now? And 2 to 4 days later, you then will be able to pay back or replenish the funds in your Fuliza wallet. So the design was actually looking to serve that 2 to 4 day customer.
That is the Fuliza now. Fuliza design is a shorter.
Very short-term ad hoc credit. The values, actually, if you look at the typical Fuliza drawdown amount, is about 370 Kenya shillings today. The typical M-Shwari drawdown amount is about 7,000 Kenya shillings. So those are two very different jobs. But of course, enter, is it 2019 or 2020, when 2020 with COVID, customers who are typically paying back their loans in 4 to 7 days, we saw that beginning to stretch out. In 2020, also with regards to digital lenders, we already had witnessed a crowding in of a product category that we had launched. And I think in Kenya, I counted almost over 100 digital credit providers. In 2020, the bulk of these exited the market. There are very few digital lenders who understood the dynamics of a pandemic situation, understood that we needed to stand with customers during this very, very difficult period, and were able to continue to provide credit support to our customers for about 6 months, when a lot of, particularly the service industry, there were just no incomes.
Was it that they didn't understand, or they didn't have the muscle to?
It is a function. It is both. And I would say we also had the pressure because we soaked in quite a bit of losses in for about 3 or 4 months running. But we had the muscle, but we also had the understanding that we should not exit because we are in this market in the long run. So deserting your customer at their time of need, when you do come back when things are better, as a fair weather friend,
they shall revisit.
Yes, the customers shall revisit. So it was a very important decision. We saw very many lenders exit the market. Very many lenders who didn't exit tighten their credit access rules. We also saw very funny practices coming, and I think it's at that time then you started hearing a lot of noise from the market about some of these practices of digital lenders.
What are some of those practices, Eric? What are we talking about here that was then uncomfortable?
Yes, I think particularly with the introduction of the digital credit providers regulation that the central bank is now driving, which I think is a very positive development. Some of the issues that the regulator has sought to address is issues to do with consumer protection. You believe you borrowed at this price, but when you look at the actual cost, it's different, or it doesn't work out to the exact cost that was advertised, or very exorbitant penalties that are applied when you're a bit late with your repayments. And even some of the customer engagement mechanisms where, because I borrowed, my wife or my brother or my dad is getting a phone call about 2,000 bob that I owe someone. And really the idea is not just from consumer protection law, but remember earlier I talked about dignity. People want to engage with their affairs with some degree of dignity.
Sure.
Yeah, and these practices, I think it was necessary that it was sanitized. In a space of 10 years, to start with just one innovator, then end up with over 100 suppliers, there's a case for regulation, and I think the regulation is coming in at the right time, having allowed the market to develop and the good and bad practices to be now observable.
You, as NCBA, birthed these ideas.
Yes.
But other financial institutions also now benefit from them.
Correct.
Now, that provides direct competition for you.
Correct.
As the mother of these delightful products, and as the people who actually pioneered it, I'm thinking of research and development. How do you retain a benefit that should accrue to someone who started the process and who actually gave it the wings to fly?
It's a very important question that you ask, and I don't know whether I can bring your camel in hand proverb here.
But please, throw in a donkey if you like, yes.
Yeah, I think one thing that we actually really debated back in 2012, 2013 is whether we should patent what we have created. We did consult with experts, and I have to say with humility that it is very difficult to patent an idea because it's really just a process. And if we think about banking, in as much as the industry has become the greatest consumer or user of technology, the fundamentals of banking really haven't changed.
No.
What changes is the how. The fundamentals of how you assess someone for credit, the fact that we've digitized it, the fundamentals are exactly the same. So we've improved the method, but not the substance. So at that time, we actually did consider going that route. We recognized the effort it will take and the difficulty of proofing the difference. It was possible, but we thought it's not a worthwhile pursuit. I think, one, we already had the benefit of a fast mover advantage, meaning that we were learning faster and learning more than anyone who's coming in late into the market. And second, we have been able to sustain a very entrepreneurial spirit both at the shareholder level and also at management level, which then means that, yes, today we set the bar here. Catching up with us doesn't mean you'll find us here. We shall have moved on. And that really is a culture that we've continued to develop at NCBA Digital Business.
Do I hear you to be saying that this was NCBA's CSR to the banking industry?
It's not CSR. It's we actually are not serving the industry. We are serving the customer. And the two innovations, and there's others I believe we'll have time to talk about today. You'll note that consistently, what we have done better than most is to listen. Listen to what the customer is looking for. Mshwari listened to the calls, or rather customers calling the Safaricom contact center saying, I want to be paid interest. We also listened to the customer when we are seeing a lot of, this actually has been and continues to be a lot of informal credit in the industry that is very inefficiently delivered. Fuliza, again, was just listening to customers who are trying to complete transactions, customers who had clearly demonstrated that they're preferring to pay digitally as opposed to pay with cash. So our service has always been to respond to the customer's need. And it's not, then one would argue that we are not innovating, but simply just listening and responding.
Listening is a serious innovation.
Very.
Because most human beings are fairly incapable of actually listening.
Yes.
Yes.
Or listening and hearing.
Two different things.
Two different things.
Yes, let's take a break.
Yeah.
It's 29 minutes after 9. Our guest this morning is Eric Muriuki Njage. He's a group director for digital business at NCBA. We're talking about Fuliza. So we know that Fuliza has reviewed their charges. We want to understand how this happened and why it matters and what we should expect next. And also, then how can customers take advantage of this particular new move? At 9:30, schools are back.
Schools are back. And Naivas is saying, welcome back to school with the Shuja back to school offer. And been back for a minute, but Naivas is extending this and saying, okay, come in and do your school shopping and get everything that you need. Celebrating Shujas who have been the teachers, who've been the learners, and even the parents. Find out how you can do more of that on the Spice Drive with Quatch from 3 to 7 p.m.
Indeed. Let's take that quick break, take a look at the weather and traffic. We will be back shortly.
I know the sun is out in Nairobi at least. As you tembea, be careful. Manchester United are trying to sign anyone. Watch out where your children are. Please hide yourselves.
Sugar and spice.
I reached a point where suicide things were just going south completely. Something stopped me. It's God now. My mom's prayers.
Join me, Yolanda Mulo, and DJ Absolute.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, highs of 26 and lows of 16. It's sunny at 18 in Nakuru, highs of 25 and lows of 13. And we'll see lows of 15 in a sunny Nyeri at 20, going to highs of 26. 24 will be the high in a sunny Eldoret, currently at 18. Rain continues in some parts of Mombasa at 26, highs of 29. And we'll see the same in Malindi at 25, currently going to highs of 29. Sunny at 24. In Kisumu, with highs of 28, we'll see lows of 19, while Kakamega will have highs of 27, mostly sunny conditions at 24. Kampala's partly sunny at 20, highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 29. In a rainy Dar es Salaam this morning at 27. All right, we're looking at sunny conditions at 19 in Johannesburg, highs of 29 and lows of 17, while it's raining in Lagos, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And the sun is up in Kinshasa at 25, it'll go to highs of 32. 15 and sunny out in Beijing going into Wednesday afternoon, 16 will be the high, lows of 6. It's mostly cloudy at 12 in Paris, highs of 22, and 19 will be the high in a cloudy London at 17. It's 13 degrees and cloudy Tuesday night in New York. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 15 and lows of 12.
Chilled Spice.
Looking much better in most parts of the city this morning. There's a little bit of something going on the outer ring. That's heading out in that easterly direction. Lunga Lunga's pretty busy. It's going to feed off of Outer Ring as well as Jogo Road today, which is looking a lot better. But then you're getting on to Landies, and that's quite busy getting onto Haile Selassie and coming off Gong Road as well. All right, what are we looking at coming out of Westlands? A much better situation. Oops, not really. Ring Road, Westlands, still pretty busy. Coming off a thicker superhighway, that has not let up just yet. So eyes on things through the morning. Let us know what it looks like where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Morio Kinjage, the Fuliza guy, NCBA Group Director for Digital Business. So, Eric, last week you announced the review of Fuliza charges. What does this mean exactly?
Thank you. So what we sought to address was two things. One, just the cost of Fuliza that was structural, but also the consumer behavior that was leading to a higher cost of credit for a product that was designed to be a very short-term loan. Earlier I'd mentioned that by design, we were anticipating that most Fuliza drawdowns will be paid back within 4 to 7 days. And for the first year and slightly longer than a year, that actually held true. Because what we do is basically try and assess using your M-Pesa inflow and outflow data, the likelihood of this customer drawing down. What is the likelihood of the customer replenishing the M-Pesa balance in 4 to 7 days? And that then determines the customers that qualify for a Fuliza credit limit, and also determines the size of your Fuliza credit limit. But as I'd pointed out earlier, with COVID, we saw customer repayment periods lengthening, moved from 4 to 7 days to 10 to 12 days, and got to a point where it was actually now about 14 to 19 days, an average of about 17 days. And very clearly then that, based on the pricing structure, which has an interest charge for each day that you are overdrawn on your M-Pesa wallet, then of course, if it's charged per day, then the longer you have that credit outstanding, then the higher your cost of credit. So you'll note the changes we made are of two types. The first was to try and influence customer behavior to pay back sooner by, instead of charging you from the next day, we give you 3 days grace period where there isn't an interest charge on your Fuliza drawdown amount that is drawn down.
Okay.
Now, we have to also do the work of educating customers to appreciate that, yes, if the intention was to give you very short-term credit, if I give you a 3-day no-charge credit, then there's a proportion of customers, we hope very many, that will appreciate what we are signaling and draw down and pay back sooner.
Within the 3 days.
Yes. So that we start pulling that average of number of days outstanding, we start pulling that average downwards. That actually is the major change we have made, although more of the focus goes into the cost of the credit. The cost of the credit also, now that we have operated the service for over 2 years, we then have sufficient data to get us to be smarter about how we price for Fuliza credit. We, just to give you a bit of data, 70% of our customers borrow within the band of 100 to 500 Kenya shillings. That band has a fixed interest charge of 5 shillings per day.
That category of individual, that group, in numbers, how many are they?
So it's the numbers with Fuliza are large. We have about 4.7 million drawdowns per day.
In this category?
No, total.
Total.
And 70% of that is... That's about 3.3 million. within 100 to 500 Kenya shillings. You recall I stated that the average drawdown amount is 374 shillings.
Yes.
Now, and it's not that most customers have a zero balance, then draw down to 374. It could be someone with a 10,000 shilling balance on the M-Pesa wallet, but the transaction is 10,000 or 11,000. So they Fuliza the 1,000. So it's not necessarily you are starting at zero. It's just the amount that you're going over your M-Pesa wallet balance. So it is a large population every day, including Sundays. So we then looked at that and said there has been a disconnect between the intention of the product and the consumer understanding of that intention and hence their behavior.
How would you connect the two? Because I don't know that, because I mean, look at the reasons why people are borrowing money, and I think they are different across the board. And when we're looking at those amounts, sometimes it's to get through the day. I mean, if we're going to be serious, it's about getting through the day and then the hope that tomorrow something will come that will be better, right? It's about running a small business whereby you need capital injection to be able to get some of your products on board. Absolutely. So how would you then connect the two? Because you bringing a product to the market and hoping that the population who is then going to partake of this has the same understanding as the creator of the product, dealing in a situation whereby we're dealing with high stress, low incomes, low capital, non-existent capital in some cases. For a lot of people, there's a pool, there's access, I'm going to get it. Understanding what you may have had in mind and how you are going to deliver it may not be top of their priority.
Yes. I think there's a very important job we have to do after the changes we introduced last week, and that is communicating and educating the customer. For the customer to recognize, actually, you have two devices available to you. There's a 30-day loan and there's an overdraft. The overdraft
Fuliza is an overdraft.
Fuliza is an overdraft. And again, I think we need to also remember that when we talk financial inclusion, 10 years ago, overdrafts were the preserve of the very few wealthy. To be able to give 4.7 million overdrafts per day, we fail to realize the significant development that has happened there. But what we are saying is today that the job of educating the customer to know when is the right time to use Fuliza and when is the right time to use M-Shwari. Because the same customer will have access to both devices. But the journey for Fuliza is a bit more easier to use, not to access, to use. Because it's when you're transacting, you get that message that says you have insufficient funds, but you have a Fuliza limit. So one of the things we're looking to do is, at that moment, that is when we should tell you have a Fuliza limit, which is an overdraft, but you also have a 30-day loan. So which is the right device to use? So if it's the person who's doing, assuming you sell, you have a small food stall, and you need to bring in 2 crates of soda into your shop, that's 5,000 Kenya shillings. Is Fuliza the right device? Are you going to sell all the sodas today and receive payments into your M-Pesa wallet? Or will you want to pay back in 10 days or 20 days? So we are looking to try and innovate the customer journey so that the customer is better able to appreciate the devices available to them. We also are getting very strong feedback that beyond the Fuliza, which is a daily charge, probably 30 days is too far out. I probably want a 10-day loan or a 20-day loan. And even when you look at how credit is being consumed informally, when somebody comes to you asking for, give me 2,000 bob, they don't always say they'll pay you back next month. They say most times end of the week or end of the month. But end of the week might be Wednesday, so I'll pay you on Friday. Or it might be 20th, I'll pay you on 30th. So we have to try and mimic or digitally the actual observed behavior, because when innovating, you don't try and change customers. You try and mimic your products.
But let me ask you this. what you're saying not only makes sense, but if it was a song that was being sung, I would say it's rhythmic. It is very pleasant to hear. And it's pleasant because it's true. But then it requires regularity, it requires consistency.
Correct.
Because that's how you get to understand patterns of behavior.
Correct.
But now when you talk about COVID and the aftermath, more so the aftermath, it threw all that into a bit of whack.
Yes.
Because I will borrow anticipating a payment if I'm a business person. I may even borrow anticipating a salary. And these are no longer certainties.
Yes.
The pattern that I was accustomed to and which led to this behavior pattern that I had has now been thrown out of whack. Now, you've talked about considering it and giving that 3-day allowance, and also understanding that perhaps this particular client may have required something that you didn't offer. Now, I'm going back to R&D.
Yes.
When you say you listen to the customer,
yes,
beyond just looking at the patterns of their transaction, what else do you do? Because I may pay you because I've borrowed from someone to pay you. Doesn't mean I had the money.
Yes.
So I've extended, my indebtedness because I now owe somebody else. How do you get to listen to the customer beyond looking at his spending patterns?
Yeah. So looking at data is one thing that we do, and I think we do that very well.
It's reliable.
The other thing that we do is actually talk to customers.
Yes.
We very frequently organize customer focus groups. In some cases where we call in these customers to come into our environment because we want to show them something. When you're going through design, does this look like the right solution for you? Is that message understandable to you, what I am trying to communicate? In other cases, we actually just go into the market to observe, to talk to customers in the market. So a lot of, as I was saying earlier, the biggest part to innovation actually is listening. And listening is in many forms. It's either analysis, data analysis that you're doing, is calling customers to observe and participate in your design process, or it's also going to the customer's environment to observe and listen. So the changes we are looking to introduce are not things we thought up last week. This has been ongoing conversations. But of course, one has to think about timing, when is the right time to introduce this. Second, with regards to communication, particularly when you're serving pretty much every Kenyan, then you have to communicate consistently and have faith, even as you're checking with the customer, that your message is actually being understood.
Actually listening and observing are the fundamentals of data collection.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So, yes, I would say you're on the right path.
Yes, coming from a scientist, I'll take that as a compliment.
Eric, I've got to ask you.
Yes.
How do you rate a user and their ability to borrow and their limits for borrowing? What do you use? What metrics do you use?
I think other than talking to the metrics, because this will keep changing, as I said earlier, the fundamentals of credit have never changed. Even when I come to you to ask for 10,000 bob, the first thing you check is the strength of the relationship.
Yep.
How long do you know this person, and what do you know of this person? But first is, how well do I know this person? Now, if I've just walked in, irrespective of how I look in terms of ability to pay, if you don't know me, we are not going to have a transaction.
Yeah.
The second is, as I teased out, ability to pay. You then look for indicators of ability to pay. And finally, willingness to pay. I may know you, you may have the ability to pay, but you do not have a history of honoring your obligations. And obligations could be credit obligations, could be anything that is a financial commitment. That so
all this is basically dependent on what you know about me.
Correct.
As I come to you.
Correct.
And in terms of my direct interaction with you.
Yes.
But you have access to another pool of information,
yes.
Eric.
So I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So we then need to appreciate it. Those are the three fundamentals. The strength of the relationship, ability to pay, and willingness to repay. So when we are looking for data to be able to, we call it scoring, to score a customer, and the score really is just a rank order. Amongst the four of us, we should be able, scoring will then say who has the highest score with regards to those three perspectives.
Yeah.
So we look at your digital payments data. That's with the partnership that we have with M-Pesa. We also look at your credit history as reported at the CRB, the Credit Reference Bureau. Now, again, that's another huge discussion topic, and we did make some very important announcements towards that to try and measure, particularly given that the channel that we are lending to you through is the M-Pesa channel. The first thing we assess is how long have you been an M-Pesa customer? What is the quality of your data with M-Pesa in terms of indicators of strength of relationship? How frequently are you using M-Pesa, or is it one-off when you're collecting funeral contributions and then
you forward the money to?
Yes. Then ability to pay. There's, again, when you're looking at payments data, there's a lot of indicators of payments ability to pay, and then willingness to pay is our previous credit history with you. So your very first loan, you'll note your credit limit is lowest at that point, because there aren't enough indicators of willingness to pay. If you're a first-time credit user and there's no history of you at the Credit Reference Bureau. But over time, as you borrow and pay back with us, your credit limit then progressively grows. Yeah.
So at what point does my positive credit score with CRB also come into this conversation?
Actually, the first time you register with us, that data is already at the CRB. And part of our contract with you is that we shall check all available data to be able to come to an assessment of how much we'll qualify with you.
Does that increase my limit, available limit?
It is part of the consideration in your score and hence your limit assignment. Your very first limit then is given on based on the data that is available at the time of your joining of the service. Going forward, the biggest driver of how fast your credit limit grows is on Fuliza is if this product was intended as a 4 to 7 day repayment, are you paying back within that period? Because when we scored you and assigned a limit to you, we had seen indicators that every 4 to 7 days, this is the kind of inflow coming into your wallet. With M-Shwari, however, it's not just your repayment, but also your savings. And again, that's another dimension that is not given a lot of attention. Savings is very boring activity, but it is very useful. And I think if you listen to some of the statements the president has made, it is a very important thing for us as an industry, as a country, to actually shift the attitudes towards savings. I think the way he put it is even the guys we borrow from, our development partners, we're borrowing the savings of their citizens. The cost of funds also in the country, you look across most countries, the cost of credit has a very strong correlation to the degree of savings by the nationals of that country, because it then informs one of the key parameters to cost of credit is you're borrowing someone else's money. What is the cost of those funds? How scarce are the funds available to lending?
The category of citizen whom the banks, financial institutions, and CRB refer to as defaulters. How do you rehabilitate these individuals? What process is used so that they become, should we say, trustworthy citizens who can be relied on to do what they do? Do you have a mechanism that helps you understand how it is they got in the position that they did? And again, does it also take into consideration what it is that perhaps in the part of the education that you mentioned can be done to ensure that whatever it is that probably brought them into that position, if it wasn't something that was beyond them, that they could overcome it and perhaps make themselves more financially viable than they are?
So, first, I think the industry has never labeled anyone as a defaulter. I think it's when reports or articles are being put out on media that then the term defaulter is used. But a CRB, and maybe let me start by giving some hard facts about the CRB, because again, there's a lot of misconception. We've had statements that 18 million Kenyans are listed in the CRB. It is true. 18 million Kenyans are listed at the CRB. 14 million of them positive listing, and 4-point-something million of them with negative listing. So again, there is that we have failed at communicating, both the industry and I think also with the media as our partners, that 18 million is not 18 million negatively listed. And this is, the CRB has existed for close to 10 years now, where we're doing full file reporting. And in those 10 years, 4.5 million Kenyans have had a negative report listed. Now, it's not to say that those 4.5 million Kenyans today have no access to credit in total. A negative listing, or a positive listing for that matter, is basically information available to a lender to consider when making a lending decision.
Okay.
It is not binary that you're listed negatively, so
no,
then why,
no
has
credit.
why has the proliferation of such a message then been so wide?
Yes.
Because it would, I mean, we've heard it's all over the place, and that
Yes,
would be the first question. Are you on CRB? Because if you are, that might be a problem. And, 7 years in the dark kind of thing, in the wilderness of non-borrowing.
Yes.
So, I mean, where does that come from then? And it does then seem as if institutions also help to proliferate the same thing.
I will not disagree with you, but maybe just give a bit more information. First, I have the benefit of doing this kind of business in 5 different markets. And I have to tell you, the credit information sharing infrastructure in Kenya is the most developed in most of Africa. Second, why has this proliferation? I think when CRBs were introduced, we launched the CRB as an industry and walked away. Now we are using it without explaining, engaging the customers, the market on the purpose of the CRB. So you find now even employers are picking the CRB before you're employed. Let's check. There is nowhere in law, there is nowhere in banking practice that says before you're employed, check CRB. So these practices have evolved, and unfortunately, negative news spreads so much faster than positive news. So there's a very important job to be done about the CRBs, and probably allow me to segue here and say, or describe, what is it that we intend to do with M-Shwari and Fuliza borrowers with CRB. Again, what was understood is we are delisting everyone.
Yes.
What we said, and we're not walking away from the statements made on last week, is we're going to present our customers with a programmatic credit repair journey, where our customer, or we communicate to you that this is the extent of your owings that are past due. Okay? Proactively. Because today, to check your CRB status, I think you're allowed once per, I forget the exact term, but then it's a cost.
It is a cost.
Yes. So again, that already is a barrier because your information at the credit reference bureaus should be an asset to you as a borrower. So you should be able to very easily and as frequently as you choose be able to access that information. Second, we are going to present our customers with a proposal that says, okay, you owe us X amount. Let's strike a deal with you. And all we need from you now is just a commitment to settle a part of the owings. And we'll give you a schedule for how to settle those owings. But once you commit to that schedule, not once you pay the owings, once you commit to the schedule, 1, we delist you. And then 2, we give you a journey towards reinstating your credit limit with us. Now, we cannot influence other lenders.
Okay.
But at least when you recognize the significance of M-Shwari and Fuliza, these are 2 very important devices that we think customers will appreciate. That we have, since launch, we have upwards of 16, 17 billion that has not been paid back. Now, we're not asking customers pay back all of that. We're saying, okay, let's work out something with the range of 25-30%. If we can work out a schedule of, say, up to 3 months where you owe us 500 bob, pay us 200 over 3 months, but we delist you and reinstate you to credit. Because again, we have to be careful about the signaling that every so often, whether it is every 5 years, you can default and not pay back.
Yeah.
Again, it goes against the fundamentals.
The entire fundamental of
credit.
it.
Yes.
Eric, this has been a very interesting conversation. I think we need more time. Like you've said, we need a lot of time to explain, to get everybody to understand what exactly this is, and especially understanding the two products, understanding the M-Shwari product and the Fuliza product, and the use for those products, the intended use for those products, the advantage of picking whichever one you want to pick. Yep. So that's a yes to coming again.
Oh, certainly yes. There's a lot we would have wanted to talk about. I think one of the other very exciting products which has not gotten a lot of airtime, say relative to Fuliza, is Loop. Loop is a full banking service that does not involve a single piece of paper. We are able to give customers a payment experience, a credit experience, and access credit up to 3 million Kenya shillings without filling a form, without entering a branch, and borrow up to 3 years. So there's a lot to be talked about.
There's that one.
Yeah.
We need to. Hey, Eric Moriokinjage is the Group Director for Digital Business at NCBA. We've been talking about Fuliza. So there's a lot of work that's been done in the last week on charges, reviewing charges for Fuliza. So we're understanding why, how, and then how you can take advantage of this. It's a lot of information. Of course, we are going to have you back again to have this conversation. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, today, Wednesday. Join us again tomorrow, Thursday, the 6th day of October 2022. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Spice up your life